Chapter 1439. At this moment, a dreamlike color was added to this mountain collapsing, tsunami-like scene. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. This white-robed man was the third of the four experts. Suddenly encountering such a desperate attack, he was instantly thrown into disarray. Instinctively, before he could stop his body's momentum, he used all the methods that he could think of, all the methods that he thought were powerful, without any purpose in mind. For a moment, at the front of this avalanche, a huge tornado appeared with a whoosh. Xie Danqiong's viburnum flowers were scattered in the blink of an eye. Xie Danqiong snorted and somersaulted into the air, clearing a path for Chu Yang to attack. He also dodged the powerful attack himself. Although the viburnum flowers only flashed for a moment, this person's head and shoulders were already splattered with blood. The viburnum flowers, after all, the blood flowers that exclusively belonged to the viburnum flowers had begun to bloom. Then, Chu Yang's powerful calamity sword technique came from the air with a majestic aura. The viburnum flowers were already dazzling in his eyes. He had not adjusted his center of gravity after rolling down from the mountain peak. His panic and fury from the sudden attack had not disappeared yet. Right now, this white-robed supreme martial artist was at the saddest moment of his life. Seeing the long sword's sword light, he roared and stabbed his sword with all his might. With two clangs, the long sword in the supreme martial artist's hand shattered under the calamity sword technique. Chu Yang's long sword remained motionless and resolute as it stabbed towards his chest. The white-robed man put his hands together. The wind from his palms suddenly sounded. But then, his skin and flesh were torn apart. Chu Yang let out a blood-curdling scream, and his legs flew up like a whirlwind. Chu Yang's swordlight scattered, and he spouted a mouthful of blood. The swordlight flashed, and Chu Yang's legs flew up while spinning. Two fountains of blood spurted out from the wounds. This supreme martial artist's scream was no longer a human's voice. His right hand, which was already bony and without any flesh, slammed desperately on Chu Yang's chest. But Chu Yang's long sword had already broken in the end. The sky was blood red. With a swoosh, his left and right arms were severed at the shoulder at the same time, one to the left and one to the right. They flew far away into the raging snowstorm and disappeared in a flash. Chu Yang rolled on the ground. Two of his ribs were broken, but he didn't retreat. Because at this moment, Mo Qingwu and Mo Leiyer's attacks had already rushed in from the left and right behind him. "Keep him alive," Chu Yang shouted in a deep voice. Mo Qingwu's dreaming of a gentle dance saber moved to the side. Mo Leiyer raised her short sword and dodged the man in white's vital points. However, at the same time, her other hand struck the man in white's chest with the force of 1,000 pounds. Only after attacking did they discover that the man had lost all his limbs. The two women were stunned. With a wah sound, the man's body, which had lost all four of his limbs, was heavily injured. He flew up from the ground, heading towards the nearby avalanche storm. Chu Yang's figure flashed, and he grabbed his chest. He shouted, "Retreat!" The four of them retreated like a whirlwind. With each flash, they were 300 meters away. The place where the battle took place had already been submerged by the surging snow waves. Mo Tianji did not participate in the battle. The most unlucky ones were probably Dong Wushong and Ao Xieyun. These two brothers rushed up like mad tigers. With a saber and a sword, they attacked the biggest snowball at the same time. With a boom, the snowball was split into two halves. A huge rock weighing tens of thousands of kilograms was split into two, smashing towards Dong Wushong and Ao Xieyun's heads. Fuck. At this moment, whether it was the graceful Ao Xieyun or Dong Wushong, who had always been as steady as a mountain, both of them could not help but curse. The two of them were so depressed that they almost vomited blood. They attacked with all their might, ready to subdue the enemy. Who would have thought that there was actually a huge rock inside? However, the power of its momentum was not to be underestimated. This rock rolled down from the top of the mountain from 3,000 feet high. The inertia it carried was simply destructive. No matter how unwilling the two of them were, they could only use their own sabers and swords to split this abominable rock into two halves again. Behind them were their brothers and sisters. How could the two of them let such a huge rock pass? However, their wrists were already sore and numb from the previous attack. Now that they had to do it again, their chests immediately felt stuffy and they hurriedly retreated. One huge rock turned into 4 pieces, and its momentum didn't stop. Mo Tianji's sleeves fluttered as he rushed forward like lightning. With 2 kicks, he kicked Dong Wushong and Ao Xieyun far away. Then, with a snort, he lifted up a huge piece of land from the ground and threw it fiercely onto it. Then, he immediately retreated. With a boom, a wave of snow shot into the sky. It directly shot thousands of feet into the sky. The 10 of them quickly retreated, dodging and dodging. They ran for an unknown distance before they managed to avoid this wave of avalanches. As they retreated, everyone realized that Dong Wushong's posture was a little strange. This mighty and domineering second master Dong was frowning. His back was bent, and his legs were together as he jumped. He jumped again and actually refused to take large strides to run. This made the brothers, who were familiar with Dong Wushong's bold style, feel extremely strange. After finally escaping from danger, Dong Wushong immediately sat down on the ground. His 2 hands covered his lower abdomen. His face turned black, and beads of sweat dripped down. "What's wrong?" Chu Yang carried the white-robed supreme martial artist over and placed him on the ground as he asked Dong Wushong. Dong Wushong's forehead was full of sweat. Mo Leiye stood at the side, glaring angrily at Mo Tianji. "What's wrong? You should ask Mo Tianji. That bastard." Dong Wushong's lips were trembling. His boorish face was distorted, and his voice was trembling, as if he was trying his best to suppress his pain. "Ask Mo Tianji?" Ji Mo scratched his head, confused. Luo Kudi also scratched his head, and said thoughtfully, looking at 4th brother Dong, "It seems like he has hurt his bird." Everyone looked and felt that Luo Kudi's words made sense. Mo Tianji was also confused. He walked forward and asked, "Ask me? What's wrong?" Dong Wushong was in so much pain that his mouth was crooked. You. Where did you kick?" Fuck you, you bastard." Mo Leiye complained with a black face. "Second brother Mo, did you do it on purpose?" Mo Tianji was speechless, and he was a little embarrassed. Mo Leiye's words especially made Mo Tianji even more embarrassed. It turned out that one of the 2 kicks that Mo Tianji used to show off his power had landed on Dong Wushong's crotch, and it was purely an accident. At that time, Mo Tianji was only in a hurry to kick the 2 of them away, but who knew that he would kick there? Second Master Dong was almost tortured to death along the way. This place was not like other places. No matter how mighty Dong Wushong was, no matter how strong he would definitely not be able to endure being kicked like this. "Hurry up and take a look." Mo Tianji was a little regretful. "See if it can still be used." Mo Leiye's face instantly turned red. She glared fiercely at Mo Tianji, and stepped to one side with a red face. "Ha ha ha." Ji Mo, Luo Kudi, Ao Xieyun and the rest laughed, holding their stomachs. No one had seen Mo Tianji's embarrassed look before, and they really enjoyed it today. Xiedan Qiong was the fastest. He directly used the snow to create a wall, isolating Mo Qingwu and Mo Leiye outside. Then, Chu Yang and Mo Tianji carried Dong Wushong in to take a look. Ji Mo also shamelessly followed in. After a long time, sounds of relief could be heard from inside. Second Master Ji chuckled as he came out. Everyone asked, "How is it?" Mo Leiye's face was red, but her ears perked up, and her eyes secretly glanced at Ji Mo. Ji Mo happily walked over and said in a loud voice, "Sister-in-law, don't worry, it can still be used. It can still be used." Before he finished speaking, poof, Mo Leiye kicked Ji Mo in the stomach, and then moved forward, punching and kicking him. In the blink of an eye, Ji Mo was hit by more than 10 punches, 30 to 40 kicks, and like a shooting star, his butt flew backward like an arrow, and with a whoosh, he flew out. Mo Leiye stomped her feet and hid behind Mo Qingwu, not coming out again. Only the laughter of a bunch of idiots could be heard. After a long time, Chu Yang and Mo Tianji also came out with strange expressions. They seemed to be smiling, obviously trying to hold it in. Then, Second Master Dong came out. He strode out with a majestic gait. But the laughter also turned into a frenzy at this moment. Second Master Dong scratched his head and glared fiercely at Mo Tianji. His black face actually turned red. In the distance, Jimo limped back, out of breath. I really have to take my hat off. I actually got beaten up while reporting the good news. A shout came from afar. Come and get me quickly. It was Rui Bu Tong. Lord Phoenix was seriously injured by this attack. When he landed, the avalanche hadn't passed yet, so he couldn't move. His body was bruised all over. When he saw that the avalanche had passed, he carefully went down the mountain. But he was extremely weak, so he could only cry for help. I'll go. Luo Kudi volunteered and left in a flash. Both of them are still alive, right? Mo Tianji asked in a low voice. Both of them are alive. Jiu Duxing said, how do we start? Mo Tianji looked at Chu Yang. Chu Yang frowned and said, when dealing with high-level supreme martial artists whose spirits are basically fixed, physical torture is useless. We can only use real torture methods. Mo Tianji was a little worried. Among these people, there really wasn't anyone famous for torture. There were quite a lot of heroes. Jiu Duxing and Dong Wushong won't do. Chu Yang directly rejected two of them. Mo Tianji agreed. If Jiu Duxing and Dong Wushong were to be interrogated, if the two of them had the temperament of valuing heroes, and saw that the other party was really tough, they would definitely give them a quick death in the name of respect. But then, everything that Mo Tianji had painstakingly planned would be destroyed by the two of them. Chu Yang rubbed his temples and said, Ao Xieyun and Xiedan Qiong will do. Xiedan Qiong will be the leader, and Ao Xieyun will assist. Mo Tianji frowned. Will it work? Chu Yang gave him a reassuring look. Trust me. Mo Tianji didn't say anything. What they didn't know was that in the previous life, Ao Xieyun and Xiedan Qiong were known as Xiegong and Qiong respectively. Both of them were overlords of their own areas. However, the two of them were also cold-hearted people. They were much more proficient than Mo Tianji and Jiu Duxing when it came to extorting a confession by torture. Chapter 1440. The two supreme martial artists were extremely miserable at this moment. They couldn't advance, retreat, talk or scold. They looked at the sword spirit in disbelief, as if they had seen a ghost. Smart kids remember network super fast hands as for fighting. Cough, where would they find the courage to fight now? What a joke. What was there to fight when encountering such a monster? The sword energy of an 8th grade supreme martial artist's lifetime of cultivation had swirled around the opponent's internal organs, yet there wasn't a single drop of blood. What was there to fight? The opponent didn't resist at all, even letting you chop him to death. Who would have the courage to fight when facing such an opponent? That was a joke. The sword spirit was helpless too. He was a soul to begin with. Although he had condensed into a physical form and looked like a physical form, in fact, he was still a soul. Some souls might be afraid of fire, some might be afraid of, but he definitely wasn't afraid of weapons like sabers, spears, swords, and halberd. They couldn't cause any harm at all. As long as the opponent didn't use soul attacks or mental attacks, the sword spirit would never suffer any harm. But who would dare to use mental attacks against such a monster? Wouldn't that be sending himself to his death? Although the sword spirit couldn't be hurt, he couldn't hurt others either. After all, he was still a spirit body. When he killed Shichishu earlier, he was close to the swordmaster and could use the swordmaster's power for his own use, killing him unexpectedly. But now, in the face of these two genuine 8th grade supreme martial artists, the sword spirit was completely powerless. But his task was to delay them and not let them come back to help. The sword spirit was full of confidence in this. He didn't need to deliberately pretend to be anything, and he could create the aura of a peerless expert. He didn't need to deliberately pretend to be something, and there was already no limit to it. He shifted his position and stood with his hands behind his back. Looking at the two of them. He just stood on the ground and looked at them, but the two of them had an inexplicable feeling of being looked down on, as if he was standing high above them, like a sovereign descending to the world. The two of them had only felt this feeling in front of the Dharma Supreme. But at this moment, not knowing if it was a psychological effect or something else, the two of them felt the aura of this person in front of them at the same time. More than the Dharma Supreme, more powerful, and much more powerful. Now, both of them had the same feeling at the same time. Could it be that this person was actually a legendary character from ancient times? Thinking of this, the two of them immediately regretted it so much that their intestines turned green. How could they deal with such a powerful figure? Although there was only a difference of 1 grade between an 8th grade supreme martial artist and a middle grade supreme martial artist, the difference was like heaven and earth. Even if the two of them had guts as big as the sky, no matter how confident they were. Nor did they dare to be confident that the two of them could defeat the Dharma Supreme. Moreover, this person was obviously stronger than the Dharma Supreme. Although the Dharma Supreme was powerful, he would still die if the sword went into his stomach and the sword aura exploded. However, the person in front of him did not even shed a single drop of blood. Who was strong and who was weak? Was there even a need to ask? Senior, may I ask who it is? The leader of the masked men in white asked nervously. The way she addressed him as senior was very particular. His voice was filled with vicissitudes of life. Even his aura carried a sense of desolation. His gaze was even more like it was from the ancient times. He also had such a shocking martial arts that could make ghosts and gods weep. If such a person wasn't a senior, then who was? The sword spirit sighed and said, "Who am I?" He said in disappointment, "Who am I?" He actually fell silent. He looked up at the sky, as if deep in thought. After a long while, he said in a somewhat desolate manner, "It's been too long, and I've already forgotten who I am. I only remember that the winds and clouds of the world have changed, and the world has changed. Everything is like that. Ha ha ha, you're all young, and you still don't understand how this old man feels. You are young, you still don't understand." The two 8th grade supreme martial artists were a little dizzy. Suddenly, a light flashed in their minds and they asked carefully, "Senior, could you be Wu Chenfeng? Supreme martial artist Senior Chenfeng?" The sword spirit frowned at once. "Chenfeng? You mean that Xiao Chen from tens of thousands of years ago? Xiao Chen?" The two masked men in white were on the verge of collapsing. Heavens! Supreme martial artist Chen Feng in front of this person was actually Xiao Chen. The sword spirit said very bleakly, "I am older than him, by so many years." The two men in white were completely stunned. So many years older than supreme martial artist Chen Feng. For a long time, the three of them did not speak. The man in white finally mustered up his courage and said, "Senior, we still have 2 brothers. Now, we might." The sword spirit rolled his eyes slightly. The man in white said, "Is it possible for the 2 of us to take our leave first? After we meet up with our 2 brothers, we will listen to senior's teachings together." The sword spirit laughed coldly. "Before this old man finishes asking, if you dare to take a step, you can try it." The 2 of them instantly froze on the spot like statues. This sentence was said with a murderous aura. It was very clear. If you dare to move, I will kill you. And without a doubt, the other party had such strength. The rumbling sound in the distance had already gradually disappeared. The 2 of them were burning with anxiety, but if this mysterious and unfathomable old senior in front of them didn't ask them to leave, the 2 of them really didn't dare to move at all. The 2 masked men in white respectfully apologized and said, "Today's matter, we have offended senior. You have indeed offended me." The sword spirit said faintly, "But this old man has already killed 1 person today. That's enough, I can't kill any more." He paused and said, "This old man has a habit in his life, and that is to be benevolent. The heavens have the virtue of cherishing life. How can we casually kill people just because we have martial strength? Isn't that going against the principles of yin and yang?" The 2 of them felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. They hurriedly said, "Senior is magnanimous and benevolent. This junior will forever be grateful and engraved in his heart." However, they heard the sword spirit continue his unfinished sentence. "Therefore, this old man has always been compassionate towards the state of the universe and the fate of mankind. I have never casually killed anyone. However, There are too many people in this world who deserve to be killed. I have to kill them. Therefore, this old man has made a solemn vow to the heavens and earth. I will only kill one person a day. I will not kill more. The words of the two men in white were instantly stuck in their throats. For a moment, a feeling of extreme speechlessness surged up from the bottom of their hearts. Fuck. If you kill one person a day, then wouldn't you have killed 315 people a year? You are fucking older than Chen Feng by so many years. Then you must have lived for at least 70 to 80,000 years. Doesn't that mean you have killed at least 20 million people? Damn it, you are actually being benevolent and compassionate towards the fate of mankind. This is really... fuck. Human lives are at stake. You can't kill recklessly. The sword spirit sighed deeply. The two men in white were speechless. They didn't know what to say anymore. Even if there are people who offend me, I will only kill one. At most, I will make up for it tomorrow or the day after. The sword spirit smiled desolately. How can human lives be treated lightly? The two supreme martial artists only felt that their heads were buzzing. They couldn't stand this old fellow's pretentiousness anymore. Let me ask you. The sword spirit narrowed his eyes. Senior, please speak. The two of them bowed together. What are you doing here? The sword spirit asked indifferently. You are actually putting on an act with the young man from the Shi clan? Huh. The two of them were instantly shocked. That fellow offended me before. The sword spirit said indifferently, 3 months ago, many people offended me. He was one of them. However, I only kill one person a day. Today, it is his turn. He is the last one. The two of them were instantly enlightened. I see. No wonder this mysterious and powerful senior would suddenly kill Shichishu. It turns out that Shichishu had offended him in the past. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. They both felt alive in their hearts. So, this has nothing to do with us, the sword spirit said indifferently. Originally, I wanted to leave after killing someone. I only have one quota per day and I have already used it. However, there are 4 of you. How can I have so many quotas for you? The two of them were dumbfounded. Quota for killing people? This old fellow actually acted as if he was giving them face when he killed people. If I didn't leave and the 4 of you offended me, wouldn't I be staying here for 4 days? Wouldn't I have to stay in this world of ice and snow for 4 more days? The sword spirit said indifferently, so, I left. Hehe, I didn't expect you to chase after me. This makes me a little curious. Hearing this, the two of them couldn't help but regret their decision. They couldn't help but raise their hands and give themselves a tight slap on the face. Damn it, how good would it be to let him go? Why did he have to be so meddlesome? Now, I don't even have a say in whether I live or die. Since you're chasing me, I naturally want to play with you. The sword spirit snorted and glanced at the two of them. The two of them were ashen-faced. The remorse in their hearts was indescribable. Who are you? The sword spirit said in an old-fashioned manner, tell me the truth and I will spare your lives. The two of them hesitated for a while. Then, they shook their heads resolutely and said apologetically, Senior, please forgive us. We have a great responsibility. We can't tell you. The sword spirit frowned. His eyes were cold. The two of them were sweating profusely. However, they didn't say anything this time. Forget it. The sword spirit sighed, I won't make things difficult for you. He thought, 4 hours have passed. Chu Yang should be almost done. Why hasn't he sent a signal yet? Helpless, the sword spirit said with great vicissitudes of life, how about this? You're no match for beans. But, you've offended me today. So, I can't let you go so easily. Where would I put my face? The two of them asked in trepidation, what do you want, Senior? I've been lonely for a long time. The sword spirit said in disappointment, I don't know who are the big clans today. Introduce me to the people of the big clans. Sigh. I remember those years. The two of them were helpless. They had no choice but to introduce the big clans with bitter faces. The sword spirit still wanted to listen to the details. So, the time didn't count. After a long time, Chu Yang finally sent a message, success. And now, The two of them had only introduced 3 big clans. The sword spirit stood up bleakly. It's not interesting at all. Okay, I see that the two of you are in a hurry. Hurry up and get lost. I'll continue to write 10-30 chapters. But, sigh, this is still my temper. I'll say the ugly words first. If I reach 11:30 before 23 o'clock, I won't be able to write any more chapters. So, if you don't want me to owe you, you can stop voting at 10:30. I'm going to write, and RQ. Chapter 1441. The news from Xie Danqiong's interrogation shocked both Mo Tianji and Chu Yang. These are law enforcement officers, and they are from the Law Enforcement Executive Hall. Smart kids remember that they are under the direct command of the Dharma Supreme. A total of 23 people came to the Northwest this time, 5 second-grade Supreme Martial Artists, 5 seventh-grade Supreme Martial Artists and 10 8th-grade Supreme Martial Artist. 3 early-grade Supreme Martial Artist. It is said that the Dharma Supreme has come personally. Just this opening statement was enough to shock Chu Yang and the others. The Dharma Supreme has issued an order for all the clans to send reinforcements. And the Dharma Supreme and the clans have sent people to the upper 3 heavens to check on the news of the tribulation, and they have already confirmed a few people, including Mo Tianji, Jiyu Duxing, Jimo, Luo Kedi and me. Xie Danqiong said, at present, the identities of the 5 of us have already been exposed. Mo Tianji's expression was calm and dark. He asked, what about the others? They are not sure about the others, but they are sure about Li Xiongtu. Xie Danqiong smiled somewhat mockingly. So they have already put in a lot of effort to besiege the Li clan this time. Mo Tianji sneered. Put in a lot of effort, but it is not enough. I want them to put in all their effort. As Dong Wushang and Rui Butong came to the upper 3 heavens early, they escaped this suspicion. But, these people have heard the Dharma Supreme mention Dong Wushang's name before. It looks like Wushang is also being watched. Xie Danqiong said slowly, the situation in the upper 3 heavens is worrying. I don't know. He looked at Mo Tianji with a somewhat worried gaze. Chu Yang frowned and asked, Tianji, have you made arrangements for our relatives and friends in the upper 3 heavens? Mo Tianji nodded and said, it should be foolproof. Chu Yang asked, oh? Mo Tianji said indifferently, I found a large mountain range and built a manor. Everyone is living there, eating and wearing. It is enough for 100 years. Chu Yang frowned. That is far from enough. Mo Tianji said, the last time, of the millions of purple crystals you left behind, 100,000 of them. I scattered them all over the upper 3 heavens, using the power of the purple crystals to set up a huge array, covering the entire mountain range. They're all hidden. If one is not proficient in formations. Mo Tianji gritted his teeth and said, even a supreme martial artist at the peak of grade 1 might not be able to break the formation. What about the inside? Chu Yang asked pointedly. If someone from the inside came out and was caught, the formation would collapse. Mo Tianji sneered, how could I not have thought of this? I told everyone that the people inside can come and go as they please. But, in fact, you can neither enter nor leave that great formation. Only after 200 years have passed and the power of the grand formation has weakened will it reveal itself. Otherwise, no one would be able to come out. No one can enter. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. I, Mo Tianji, have always planned ahead. Since our identities are in danger of being exposed, how can I let myself have any worries? Mo Tianji looked at Jiyu Duxing, Dong Wushang, and the others with an apologetic look in his eyes. I lied to you. Because, if I didn't lie to you, with the tempers of our family's archdukes, they definitely wouldn't continue to stay in the mountains. Brothers, please understand. He apologized. Mo Tianji actually apologize. This fact made Chu Yang extremely surprised. He knew better than anyone what kind of person Mo Tianji was. Mo Tianji had always been meticulous. This also gave him an almost vicious self-confidence. He wouldn't bow to anyone. Even if he was really wrong, he would still hold on. He could allow himself to make up for his mistakes in secret, but he definitely wouldn't say it in public. Furthermore, He would never apologize to someone in public. This was Mo Tianji's taboo. In his previous life, the master of calculation and manipulation once said, "I can be wrong, but I can't bow. I can make up for it, but I definitely won't apologize. I can die, but I definitely won't bow." This was Mo Tianji. But Mo Tianji was actually apologizing to others. Even though he was apologizing to his own brother, Chu Yang still felt a huge surprise. He could feel that the current Mo Tianji was much more mature and powerful than he had been in his previous life. Even if a commander who saw all living things as dirt won every battle, there would still be a day when he would be defeated by himself. But a commander who saw through the world and followed the will of the people would be able to prosper for a long time. Even if there were losses, he would become more and more stable. Jiyu Duxing and the rest were in a huge surprise. When they heard that the Dharma Supreme had confirmed their identities, they immediately started to worry about their families. They were even more worried that their families would be caught when they went out. Now that they heard Mo Tianji's words, they instantly felt relieved. They couldn't even thank him enough. Why would they care about such a small deception? Besides, this deception was done with good intentions. Everyone expressed that they didn't care. Xiedan Qiong wanted to continue reporting, but Mo Tianji stopped him. He said, "Let me say a few words first. Since the Dharma Supreme and the law enforcement officers have confirmed our identities, it means that the day of a direct battle is not far away. But our current strength isn't enough yet. So, in the future, each of you will have to make plans or preparations." "What plans and preparations?" Jimo asked. "For example, how to hide our identities, how not to be suspected, how not to implicate your brothers, how to improve your strength as soon as possible," Mo Tianji said word by word. Everyone fell into deep thought. What else? Chu Yang looked at Xiedan Qiong. Mo Tianji, on the other hand, was deep in thought. Using the sheathed sword in his hand, he drew something on the snowy ground. It seemed to be some kind of map. As he drew, he mumbled to himself. However, the drawing was extremely abstract and no one could understand it. Also, the incident in the Medicine Valley was done by the Dharma Supreme with the law enforcement officers. After the massacre in the Medicine Valley, the Dharma Supreme went in to search for something. When he came out, although he didn't say anything, I could feel that he had found what he needed. Chu Yang's whole body shook. His eyes shone brightly as he gritted his teeth. "Dharma Supreme, it's really you." Mo Tianji suddenly raised his head. What did the Dharma Supreme find? Chu Yang snorted and said, "There's no need to think about this. What he found must be the heaven-nourishing jade. Every time the medicine banquet is held, a portion of the heaven-nourishing jade will be left in the Medicine Valley. The Dharma Supreme must have set his eyes on that." Mo Tianji nodded and made a sound of agreement. He didn't understand the use of the heaven-nourishing jade, but he didn't want to ask Chu Yang about it now. Chu Yang was full of doubts. Although the heaven-nourishing jade was heaven-defying, it could only be used on those who were seriously injured and had their spirit shattered. The Dharma Supreme would rather destroy the entire Medicine Valley to snatch the heaven-nourishing jade. Why? Could it be that the heaven-nourishing jade had other uses? After the incident in the Medicine Valley, he framed the extraterrestrial demons and then slandered you as an extraterrestrial demon. This was also how he came to be. Xiedan Qiong was somewhat indignant. To think that the most powerful and authoritative Dharma Supreme in the heavens would actually be such a sinister and vicious villain. Jiyu Duxing said coldly and angrily, "How can such a person be worthy of being the Dharma Supreme? Ruling over the heroes of the world? He should be beheaded." Chu Yang had already guessed this and didn't take it to heart. Instead, he laughed at Jiyu Duxing's words. Beheaded. Haha, Jiyu Duxing really had a sense of impartiality. However, although they didn't know the use of the mysterious item that the Dharma Supreme snatched, they saw the benefits of that item with their own eyes. It was only now that Xiedan Qiong's face regained some of its color. It was obvious that the violent vomiting earlier had affected him. He said slowly, "Back then, the Dharma Supreme was seriously injured. It was all thanks to the internal energy of the people from the law enforcement hall and the continuous slaughter of human lives to maintain his vitality. However, after obtaining that item, the Dharma Supreme's body miraculously recovered. Moreover, his cultivation improved even more. During this period of time, he improved by leaps and bounds. He became more and more unfathomable. When Xiedan Qiong finished speaking, he saw that Chu Yang's gaze had become deep and profound. He hurriedly stopped talking, afraid that he would disrupt the problem that Chu Yang was currently considering. Chu Yang frowned and thought hard for a while before he asked, "What else?" "There's also the existence of the Doyen Hall." Xiedan Qiong said, "In the land of the law enforcement officers, there's the most mysterious Doyen Hall. It's filled with unparalleled experts." He paused for a moment before he said, "The 3 defeats that Jiu Igu mentioned should be the work of the people from the Doyen Hall." Chu Yang nodded slowly. "Yes. There's also the fact that there seems to be an additional person beside the Dharma Supreme. However, they have never seen him before. It's just a feeling. This is because the Dharma Supreme originally didn't have any abnormalities about him. But now, they sometimes notice very faint black aura rising from him. This kind of black aura makes people very uneasy." When he said this, Chu Yang's and Mo Tianji's expressions changed at the same time. Extraterrestrial demon. Both of them secretly cried out in their heart. Xiedan Qiong was startled by the expressions on their faces. Chu Yang took a deep breath. "This matter is too important. Be careful not to spread it." Then, he said to Xiedan Qiong, "Continue." Only then did Xiedan Qiong continue. "What follows is related to the situation in the northwest, including the obstruction of Xiao Zhangyang and Shichishu just now. Even these people don't know what exactly this operation is about. They only know that it's to assist Diwu Qingru in establishing the power of the Diwu clan. In order to achieve this goal, they can pay any price and resort to any means." Chu Yang and Mo Tianji exchanged a look, seeing the complicated look in each other's eyes. Mo Tianji coughed and said softly, "We all know that the Dharma Supreme's name is Dongfang Badao. Later on, Big Brother told me that he was actually one of the tribulations from a very long time ago. His name is Lu Long." Then, after Big Brother investigated the details, he once said, "Is the Dharma Supreme's name called?" He stopped talking and paused for a moment. Then, he said word by word, "Diwu Chouchang?" Chu Yang's expression was dark and solemn. "That's right." Mo Tianji smiled lightly. A glint flashed across his eyes. He said somewhat elegantly, "Could it be that he wants to rebuild the Diwu clan tens of thousands of years later?" "This isn't impossible." Chu Yang also smiled. Mo Tianji smiled lightly and said, "The melancholy of the past and gentleness of the present, 2 generations of thinkers, against the secrets of the heavens." 5th update. Please vote. To be continued. Chapter 1442. Mo Tianji smiled faintly and said, "Back then it was melancholy. Today it's gentleness. 2 generations of thinkers. Smart kids remember the net. Super fast hands update the net." Chu Yang chuckled, "Heaven's secrets are unpredictable." Mo Tianji nodded slightly. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. "Yes, heaven's secrets are unpredictable. They can't be defeated. Heaven's secrets have never been seen through." Chu Yang laughed. "I believe you can win." Mo Tianji's eyes were serious. "No, we can win. It's the same." Chu Yang pondered and said, "Heaven's secrets. But, even though heaven's secrets can't be completely seen through, there are times when people can succeed in comprehending heaven's secrets." Mo Tianji nodded and said, "So, even though heaven's secrets are mysterious, they are not invincible. If heaven's secrets don't move, they will be the enemy's target. So heaven's secrets need to be constantly changing." Chu Yang was completely relieved. Mo Tianji's words were very serious. So serious that it was almost as if he was speaking with his heart. It could be seen that he was constantly enriching himself. Moreover, he didn't underestimate the enemy at all. Chu Yang knew that Diwu Chongchang and Diwu Qingru were planning for the same thing. Mo Tianji had taken it seriously. Moreover, he had started to be very careful. Previously, it was just a battle between the strong and the weak. But now, It was a battle of life and death. As far as Chu Yang knew, Mo Tianji in this state was almost invincible in terms of scheming and plotting. Chu Yang immediately sent a message to the sword spirit to call him back. Then, everyone was ready to set off. Xie Dan Qiong was lying on the ground. He looked at Chu Yang sadly. "Big brother, can we find someone else to interrogate the prisoners in the future?" Chu Yang patted him on the shoulder and said, "You did well. Now, brothers. We lack such a talent. Do well. I believe you will become the most ruthless official in the heavenly layer." Xie Dan Qiong's handsome face suddenly collapsed like a wilted cigar. "Those two people are dead, right?" Chu Yang asked. Xie Dan Qiong took a breath and said, "Yes. That's good. Let's go." The group shot towards the northwest like lightning. In the same place, the simple temporary interrogation room that was surrounded by 4 snow walls stood silently. Not long after Chu Yang and the others had left, the 2 white-robed men finally rushed back. They were burning with anxiety. From afar, they could see the collapsed mountain peak. That kind of heaven-shattering and earth-shattering scene caused the 2 of them to feel uneasy and full of worry. The 2 of them moved like lightning, first ascending the mountain peak on the left. Looking around, as far as their eyes could see, there were no traces of humans at all. He released his divine perception to search, but there was no response. It seemed to be between heaven and earth. Only the 2 of them were left alone. The 2 of them searched the entire mountain peak but found nothing. The 2 of them panicked and couldn't help but shout, "Third brother, fourth brother." The wilderness was silent. Their voices spread far and wide, and the mountains and valleys roared in response, booming without end. In a place like this, where they were doing secret business, there shouldn't have been such a big commotion. But now, the ominous feeling in their hearts was getting thicker and thicker. Slowly, they felt as if they were about to suffocate. Their hearts were filled with panic and worry. How could he care so much? It was as if the thing that they treasured the most was slowly leaving, and it was finally silent. The 2 of them shouted as they searched. Later, they became more and more panicked. They ran all over the mountain like crazy, throwing out palms after palms to shake up the snowflakes that had just fallen on the ground. They looked underneath. Finally, they came down the mountain. "Finally, boss, there are traces of battle here." The other white-robed masked man threw out a palm, and the snow flew up. Immediately, they saw the traces of battle, the messy footsteps, the little bloodstains. The little traces left by the saber light and the sword energy. The 2 of them were shocked. They hurriedly moved and turned over the entire area, picking up the layers of stone and snow that were covered by the avalanche. Finally, the white-robed masked man suddenly trembled and stood there in a daze. The other man turned his head and saw an arm quietly appear on the ground. The finger was slightly curled, and it was frozen stiff. On the almost transparent, frost-covered thumb, there was a purple thumb ring. "Third brother." The white-robed masked man threw himself on the ground as if he had gone crazy. He held the arm in his arms, and tears dripped down, soaking the cloth covering his face. In such a bitterly cold weather, when tears flowed out, a burst of mist actually rose up in spirals and spiraled upwards. "This is third brother's thumb ring. This is third brother's arm." The other white-robed masked man looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked up to the sky and howled, third brother, where are you? Who did this?" The 2 of them almost went crazy. Then, they searched with all their might, and turned over the entire battlefield. Then, they found scattered pieces of flesh, fingers, arms, broken legs. They collected them piece by piece. Their bodies trembled more and more violently, and they almost couldn't stand. These were the flesh and blood of their brothers. Now, they were all chopped down. "Where are my brothers?" Their eyes were bloodshot as they searched around like they had gone mad. "Who did this? Bastard, come out. Third brother, fourth brother, where are you?" Finally, the 2 of them stared blankly. In the dense snow in front of them, they found the 4 walls of snow that surrounded them. They stood there quietly, not moving at all. Although there were only 4 walls of snow, the 2 of them could clearly feel the aura of death inside. The 2 of them stared at it with their 4 eyes. At this moment, They actually didn't dare to go forward. It was as if there were countless evil spirits and demons in the four walls of snow. The two of them trembled, and their lips trembled as they walked over step by step. One step deep, one step shallow. At this moment, the dignified 8th grade supreme martial artists actually seemed so weak that they couldn't use their internal energy. Finally, they reached the front. The two of them closed their eyes, gritted their teeth, and stepped in. Their trembling hands were still able to send out palm energy. When they sent out their palms, the snow flew up lightly, as if dead souls were fluttering in a messy and powerless manner. Two corpses that were too horrible to look at. They appeared in front of the two of them. His four limbs were incomplete, and his face was filled with unbearable pain. However, his four eyes were still wide open as he stared at the snowy sky. His lifeless pupils were frozen with extreme humiliation and a desire that made him want to die immediately. Third brother. Fourth brother. The two of them went limp as if all their bones had been extracted from their bodies. They knelt on the ground with a thud. With a cry, they spat out blood all over the sky. They crawled on their knees, trembling as they approached their brother's body. They opened their arms and hugged their brother's already cold body tightly in their arms, unwilling to let go. They tried to use their own body heat to drive away the freezing cold for their brother, but to no avail. Their brother couldn't feel it anymore. Who did it? Who dared to do it? The two of them roared at the sky, crying out with heart-wrenching pain, "Who did it? Who killed my brother?" This cry was the culmination of all the cultivation of an 8th grade supreme martial artist. Their voices exploded in midair like thunder, invaded by the warm body heat of the two of them. The two corpses that were already cold suddenly dripped with blood from their mouths and noses, bright red and eye-catching. The two of them knelt on the ground. They hugged their corpses tightly, howling at the sky. 1,000 years of reunion. 1,000 years of brothers. Far away in the northwest, Mo Tianji and the others also heard the faint howls from the wind and snow. For a moment, everyone was silent. Mo Tianji looked back quietly and asked in a low voice, "Do you feel that it's very cruel? Do you feel that it's a little unbearable? Or even, do you feel guilty?" He was asking Xie Danqiong. When he heard this cry, he clearly saw Xie Danqiong's body tremble. Yes. Xie Danqiong took a breath. "Killing people, I've killed many, but this time, hearing such tragic cries, I suddenly felt the true brotherly love between them." Mo Tianji said coldly, "If you didn't kill him and let him kill you, all the brothers here would cry like this for you, and I can guarantee that it would be even more intense than this." Xie Danqiong's whole body shook. Mo Tianji was cold to the end. The two who died have already lived for thousands of years, freely roaming the martial world. In this life, how many people have they made cry like this? People of the martial world die in the martial world. Chu Yang sighed. "Danqiong, this is the martial world. The enemy has family, we also have brothers. If the enemy's brothers don't feel bad, it's our family's turn to feel bad." Xie Danqiong took a deep breath and nodded heavily. "I understand. I just feel a little emotional and heavy in my heart." Chu Yang said softly, "The martial world is a place of heartbreak. If you don't, I will be heartbroken." Everyone turned back and walked forward in silence. Chu Yang held Mo Qingwu in his arms, Dong Wushang held Mo Lei, and the group quickly disappeared into the snow, at the Alliance's camp. Xiao Zhangyang finally returned. He came back with Shichishu in his arms. When they saw this scene, all the supreme martial artists' eyes almost popped out of their socket. Shichishu is dead. When Diwu Qingru received this news, his whole body trembled, and more than half of the tea he was holding spilled out. For a moment, he was inexplicably shocked. Didn't they say that they wouldn't kill people? Why did they kill Shichishu? The She clan's troops all went crazy at once. The whole camp was in chaos. 4 people. 4 masked men in white. Xiao Zhangyan's mouth was full of blood, his eyes ferocious and violent. They said that they were from the Li clan. They also used the martial arts of the Li clan, but I keep feeling that something is not right. I have already memorized their figures, eyesight, and voice. As long as I see them again, I will be able to recognize them immediately. Xiao Zhengyang looked up to the sky and roared, "If I don't take revenge for this, may I, Xiao Zhengyang, be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. After I die, I will fall into hell and never be reincarnated. The moment he heard that it was 4 masked men in white, Diwu Qingrou's heart skipped a beat. It was indeed them. Why? The rules were very strict. They could be injured but could not be killed. Why did they still kill them? I continue to write. Brothers and sisters who still have monthly tickets, please throw 2 tickets over. GRQ. Chapter 1443. Diwu Qingrou frowned. After comforting Xiao Zhengyang for a while, he suppressed the intense emotions of the She clan. Then, he gathered the supreme martial artists who were leading the team to discuss and determine the countermeasures. Then, he walked back to his own tent with a heavy heart, his brows tightly knitted. Smart kids remember network super fast hands update in the eyes of others. Diwu Qingrou was worried about the attack on Shichishu and Xiao Zhengyang, but no one knew that he was thinking about a completely opposite problem. The doubts in Diwu Qingrou's heart were expanding. They kept saying that they were helping me, but they didn't care about my decision at all and didn't carry it out at all. At such a time when I needed experts, they actually killed an 8th grade supreme martial artist from their own side. What did this mean? Diwu Qingrou's eyes were gentle, and he sat motionless. No one knew what he was thinking. From his expression, there wasn't even any sense of loss or anger. As usual, he was as calm as water. It was late at night. Diwu Qingrou was still sitting quietly. He seemed to be waiting for something. He believed that those 4 people would definitely come. There was a burst of mist in the air, and 2 figures appeared in front of Diwu Qingrou. Both of them were in rags, and their eyes were red with extreme grief and anger. Diwu Qingrou didn't seem to see them. He just said very calmly, "You're back?" The leader of the masked men in white took a deep breath and calmed his voice. "Yes, we are back. Something unexpected happened. Shichishu is dead." Diwu Qingrou faintly replied, "Oh, he's dead." He didn't speak anymore. As if this matter was very common. The leader waited for a long time, waiting for Diwu Qingrou to ask the reason, but Diwu Qingrou didn't. "Why don't you ask me the reason?" The leader's eyes were like knives. The agreement was not to kill anyone, but now someone has been killed. "Don't you find it strange? Don't you feel angry?" Diwu Qingrou said lightly, "It's just one person dying. In this world, people die every day. If they don't deserve to die, everyone has their reasons in other people's eyes. But what's the use of reasons? Dead is dead." Diwu Qingrou said sarcastically, "Even a peak 2nd grade supreme martial artist is just a piece of smelly meat after death. Is this very strange?" The 2 masked men in white breathed heavily at the same time, staring at Diwu Qingrou. They clenched their fists. They said hoarsely, "Not only Shichishu is dead, the 4 of us went out together. But only the 2 of us." He clenched his fists tightly, and his voice sounded as tragic as if he was spitting out blood. "My 3rd and 4th brothers are also dead." Diwu Qingrou slightly raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh, I see." His voice and expression were still calm. The masked man in white was panting heavily. Suddenly, he grabbed Diwu Qingrou's clothes and shook Diwu Qingrou. He growled in a low voice, "My brother is dead. 2 of them. Qingrou Qingrou Qingrou, Qingrou Qingrou. Don't you have something?" Diwu Qingrou didn't say anything. His eyes coldly looked at the hand that was holding his collar. He slowly raised his head and looked into the eyes of the masked man in white. His gaze was calm, deep, and cold. "Qingrou Qingrou. Qingrou 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 Ru Qingrou Qingrou Ru Ru." He let go of his hand weakly. Diwu Qingrou tidied his clothes as if nothing had happened. He sat down slowly and said, "Many people have died in this world. They are only important to you. What does it have to do with me?" The 2 men in white frowned at the same time, looking at him fiercely. Diwu Qingrou smiled faintly. "Your brothers are dead. Are their corpses better than others? You are making a scene here, and so is the She clan." He sneered. Suddenly, he clapped his hands and recited slowly, "There is no place in life that is not in Jianghu. Once you enter Jianghu, how can you leave? Corpses pile up to build a mountain of heroes, blood paving the road of heroes. Young brothers die in Jianghu. How can ordinary people be angry? Those who used to laugh in the wind and clouds are now in the bellies of birds and beast. You have fought for thousands of years. How many heroes have died under your feet? If enemies and relatives are angry, how many lives do you have for revenge? You have killed people for thousands of years. Don't you deserve to die? What are you upset about? What are you sad about? Diwu Qingru sneered. Not completing the mission and making a mistake is a capital crime. If you were a general under my command, you would have been beheaded in public. Now, you two actually came to me to ask for an explanation. The two men gasped for breath and stared at Diwu Qingru. Diwu Qingru said casually, "You are all experts. I can't afford to use your help. Please leave here. I won't send you off." Diwu Qingru was not angry. He indeed had some thoughts of breaking off the cooperation. Because from such cooperation, Diwu Qingru could not see any hope for the Diwu clan. You have offended everyone. Even if I can revive the Diwu clan, even if I can subdue most of the people here, the evidence is in your hands. Once you are exposed, the entire Diwu clan will die without a burial place. In this way, won't I, Diwu Qingru, become your puppet? If these people had done as he instructed and only injured but not killed, Diwu Qingru could have continued. And in that way, he would have made the situation more dependent on him. They would be completely united against a common enemy. He would have created a mountain-like pressure and controlled everyone in his hands. But Shichishu was dead. The plan was completely scrapped. Now, the only thought left was revenge. Diwu Qingru could not make use of this tyrannical emotion at all. In particular, Xiao Zhangyang, who had just escaped death, was in charge of it. Moreover, Shichishu was different from Lan Morfeng. The Lan clan was gone, and Lan Morfeng was a lone official with nowhere to go. However, behind these Shi clan troops, there was still a huge clan supporting them. They would not be driven into a corner. Of course, Diwu Qingru had other plans. If they only wanted to make use of him, then they would probably give up after today. He was not deeply involved in the things that happened these few days. Even if he was exposed, he could very well deny it and withdraw. But if they really wanted to help the Diwu clan, then, after today, the real landlord should show himself. The two men in white were dumbfounded at once. If the two of them went back now, they would definitely be skinned alive by the Dharma Supreme. Although the two of them were sorrowful and angry, there was nothing they could do to Diwu Qingru. They humbled themselves for a long time. Diwu Qingru did not say a word. There was coldness between his eyebrows. The two of them had no choice but to leave. Watching the two of them disappear, Diwu Qingru sighed softly and shook his head. It was already midnight, but the heavy snow outside was still falling. Ever since Diwu Qingru came here, the snow here seemed to have not stopped for a day. In fact, in this northwest area, since ancient times, it had never snowed in a year. It seemed that it had not been more than 2 months. Diwu Qingru waited until this moment and finally exhaled. He did not know whether it was relief or regret. He sat down cross-legged to cultivate and rest. At this moment, a voice suddenly said, "You are too reckless to chase them away." Diwu Qingru was not shocked but happy. He said indifferently, "Are you finally willing to show yourself?" That voice said, "Are you looking for me?" Diwu Qingru was silent for a moment and said, "Give me a reason. Otherwise, I will never cooperate. I, Diwu Qingru, would rather live an ignoble existence and plan for the future. But I will never be a puppet." That person was silent for a moment and said, "You are a direct descendant of the Diwu clan. Do you recognize this item?" As he said, a jade token appeared on the table in front of Diwu Qingru. A drop of blood flew over and dripped on the jade token. The jade token lit up in front of the light and gave off a sparkling glow. A line of words slowly appeared in the glow. Number 1 in the human world, vast sky. Number 2 in the human world, vast earth. Number 3 in the human world, wind, cloud, water and fire. Number 4 in the human world, gods and demons. I am number 5 in the human world. Diwu Qingrou's whole body shook. For the first time, the color in his eyes changed. This was the life token of the Diwu clan. It had always been the supreme treasure of the Diwu clan. Only the divine spirit and bloodline of the direct descendant of the Diwu clan could activate it. Ever since the clan was destroyed, its whereabouts were unknown. But now, it had appeared here. And this drop of blood could actually activate the illusion of the life token. It was definitely a direct descendant of the Diwu clan. This life token listed heaven, earth, gods, demons and nature as the top 4 in the world. Only the Diwu clan was listed as number 5. In fact, it meant that although they were surnamed Diwu, they were actually number 1 in the world. Diwu Qingrou stood up and tidied his clothes. Then, he bowed respectfully 3 times to the life token. Then, he stood up and said, "May I ask who you are?" That voice was somewhat disappointed. He said, "I am number 5. Now, are you still going to reject my help?" On the other side, after a night of rapid marching, Chu Yang and the others had already reached the place where Lang Yilang had died in battle. After resting for a while here, Chu Yang bowed to the heavens. He couldn't help but think of Wei Wuyan again. His eyes dimmed for a long time. Mo Tianji said, "Chu Yang, we'll split up here." Split up? Chu Yang was stunned. "Yes. We'll split into 3. The first, I'll bring Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong to the Li clan." Mo Tianji said steadily, "You'll bring Dong Wushang, Qingwu and Lei Ye to cooperate with me outside. The third, Jiyu Duxing will bring Jimo, Luo Kedi and Xie Danqiong. Wait for an opportunity and act independently. Duxing must remember that you're not allowed to make a move at any other time. Only when the 2 clans are at war can you make a move. Retreat after 1 strike. It's the same every time we go to war. There's no problem with us splitting up. But isn't it too risky for the 3 of you to enter the Li clan?" asked Chu Yang. Mo Tianji smiled. "There's definitely no risk at all. And the Li clan is too weak now. If they lack a strategist, once Diwu Qingrou really launches an attack, they'll probably be depleted in a short time. So I have to go. This great battle is also what we're trying to buy time for. We have to borrow their strength this time." Mo Tianji said calmly, "What you have to pay attention to is the movements of the Lan clan, Xiao clan and Shi clan. I'll constantly create opportunities for you." Chu Yang nodded and said, "Okay." Each of them was given an incomplete version of the heavy pill to carry with them in case of emergency. Mo Tianji smiled gently and elegantly. "If the Li clan isn't at the end of its rope, don't contact me. I have the confidence to turn at least half of the thousands of supreme martial artists here into bones. I really want to go all out today, but I really can't. I can only do 2 things, rest up and go all out tomorrow. GRQ." Chapter 1444. The Li clan was in a state of misery. Smart kids remember Network Super Fast Hands update. During this period of time, the enemy's attacks were not powerful, but they were dense. There was almost no loophole to be exploited. The Li clan was forced to retreat bit by bit, while the enemy advanced steadily step by step. The enemy came slowly, but with a mountain-like pressure. The Li clan did not lose many men during this period of time, but the pressure they were under was unprecedented, almost causing them to break down. From the enemy's actions, they could clearly feel the wisdom of the enemy's commander. The enemy was fighting with intelligence. So many people in the Li clan racked their brains, but they could not figure out the enemy's plan at all. Step by step, they were led by the nose by the enemy. Every step the enemy took was to attack the enemy's vital points. After they dealt with the enemy's attacks, they would always suffer losses and be forced to give up some territory. Slowly, the 30,000 miles of territory had shrunk by a small half. The most terrifying thing was that the enemy did not suffer any losses at all. They were still advancing at a constant speed. At this moment, these arrogant Jianghu experts finally realized the importance of intelligence, wisdom, and scheming. It turned out that a high level of cultivation did not mean anything. Although all the intelligence in the northwest had reached here very accurately, they could not figure out the direction of the enemy's attack. When faced with such an enemy, No matter how high your cultivation was, you would only end up being played like a fool. The Li clan was in a gloomy state. Li Wubo sat in the clan's temporary meeting hall, his brows tightly knitted. As he listened to the discussions and arguments of the clan experts below, he felt more and more powerless. How could a bunch of martial artists compare to a super military advisor? Everyone below was in a heated discussion. They were also at their wits' end. At the end of the discussion, everyone unanimously agreed, if we really have to deal with it, we have to maintain the situation. Then, we must have a genius military advisor to lead us, and he must be better than the enemy's commander. Only then can he lead us to victory. But after this conclusion, everyone became even more dispirited. This was easy to say, but there was no one in the entire heavens who could be better than the enemy's current commander. Now, everyone finally knew how terrifying Diwu Qingru was. Originally, they heard that Diwu Qingru had achieved great feats in the lower three heavens with his bare hands, and intimidated the world. Everyone just took it as a joke and felt a sense of superiority, like an elephant watching ants fighting for power. But now, everyone felt ashamed. Suddenly, there is one person who can keep Diwu Qingru in check. Li clan's Grand Duke Li Ju suddenly said. Everyone was shocked. Who is it? It is King of Hell Chu. Li Ju's eyes lit up. Only King of Hell Chu, who defeated Diwu Qingru in the lower three heavens, can do this. Lead us out of this predicament. King of Hell Chu. Everyone suddenly realized. It was as if the clouds had parted to reveal the blue sky. But where exactly is this King of Hell Chu? Li Wubo frowned, his eyes flickering. It said that Chu Yang, who is now being slandered as an extraterrestrial demon, is a heavenly demon. He was King of Hell Chu back then. Li Ju said in a deep voice, he was from the Chu clan in the southeastern part of the upper three heavens. Right now, it's in the upper three heavens. I'll invite him here immediately. A white-bearded supreme martial artist stood up. That's right. Although we haven't reached the end of our rope yet, under the threat of the other party, we are like a group of fish being gradually driven into a big net. We don't have the ability to resist at all. Inviting King of Hell Chu at such a time. It's also a brilliant move when we have no other way out. However, firstly, the outside has already been sealed. How can we charge out? Secondly, is King of Hell Chu willing to come? Li Wubo frowned. These 2 points are very important. It shouldn't be difficult to tear a hole in the enemy's encirclement with a team of experts, said that supreme martial artist. Then, what about when we return? How do we enter when we return? And, if the other party pursues us, do we have the confidence to return? Even if we can return and charge in, by then, will the Li clan still be around? Li Wubo snorted. Besides, where is King of Hell Chu now? How long will it take to get out? How long will it take to find him? How long will it take for him to return? Everyone was disheartened at once. The few possibilities that Li Wubo had mentioned were real. Other things aside, the Li clan couldn't afford to delay any longer. Even if King of Hell Chu agreed to come and help, it would take at least 2 months for him to come and go. After 2 months, it was still uncertain whether the Li clan would still exist in this world. Everyone's faces were full of worry. Could it be that they could only wait helplessly for death? Li Xiongtu, who was present at the meeting, frowned and said, King of Hell Chu may have this ability. However, as far as I know, there's another person who has more confidence in defeating Diwu Qingru. It's a pity that that person is in the upper three heavens. Everyone was shocked. They asked, who is it? If the King of Hell Chu that Li Ju mentioned only gave them hope, then the person recommended by Li Xiongtu would definitely make them go crazy with joy, because Li Xiongtu's identity was different. The person he recommended, the wise one, was definitely the mastermind of tribulation. The masterminds of tribulation in the past were all invincible in the world with their supreme wisdom. This was something that everyone in the world knew. Li Xiongtu shook his head and said, it's a pity that that person is too far away to put out a nearby fire. Everyone was about to ask. Right at this moment, a long roar suddenly shook the sky from afar. A clear voice said, Li Xiongtu. This voice was like the long roar of a golden dragon in the sky. Although it was very far away and very weak, it was clear and natural and proud as it was in front of them. All the supreme martial artists in the hall were shocked. Who was calling Li Xiongtu's name? Could it be that the other party had already launched a large-scale attack? Li Xiongtu, who was present at the meeting, was also confused. Who's calling my name? And, this voice seems a little familiar. Seeing that everyone had turned to look at him, Li Xiongtu's rough face revealed some confusion. He said, I don't know who it is, but it sounds a little familiar. Everyone's expression was shock. Sounds a little familiar? Could it be? Li Wubuo's eyes suddenly lit up. He shouted, who's there? The voice from earlier didn't speak again. But another voice shouted, ask your people to stop. What an idiot. If we were enemies, we would have killed him. If we're enemies, why would we be shouting here? What followed was intense battle cries, getting closer and closer. It seemed that the Li clan brothers outside couldn't stop the other party at all. Li Wubuo shouted, stop it. Invite the guests in. Li Xiongtu's expression changed. He said, I can tell, so it's them. As he spoke, a strange expression appeared on his face. It seemed to be resentment, but also nostalgia, and also a little sad. Them. This word really made one's imagination run wild. Everyone knew that Li Xiongtu was one of the tribulations. Could it be that the other brothers of the tribulations had finally arrived? No one said anything. But the next moment, regardless of whether they were 8th grade or 7th grade supreme martial artists, all of them stood up abruptly. Their eyes were burning. They looked at the entrance of the hall. Although the other party's voice could be heard, it was very far away, at least 100 miles away. But now, everyone seemed to be unable to wait. Once they stood up, no one sat down again. After 30 minutes, someone finally came to report. Reporting to Clan Master, there are 3 people outside who claim to be young Master Xiongtu's friends. Li Wubuo was overjoyed. With a wave of his hand, he said, quickly invite them in. Everyone raised their heads and looked at them. From afar, there were figures approaching rapidly. After the Li clan's property was destroyed, they were besieged. They didn't have time to build a new base, so they simply used the eternal ice and snow to build an ice palace with the supreme martial artist's power. Now, it looked sparkling and translucent, as if it was even more imposing than the original property. In front of the ice palace, 3 people walked in slowly. All 3 of them were dressed in white, tall and slender. As they looked around, they were in high spirits. There was a kind of boundless atmosphere like in the vicissitudes of the world, phoenixes reside, in the turbid world, dragons fly in the sky. The 3 of them walked side by side. Far away in the meeting hall, everyone felt the aura of these 3 people at the same time. At this moment, even though they hadn't met them in person, even 8th grade supreme martial artists felt a chill in their heart. These 3 young people had such a strong aura. Every one of them was a dragon among men, a peerless genius. If there were any doubts before, now there was no doubt at all. Because no matter which one of these 3 people, be it in terms of demeanor, elegance, aura, or cultivation, they were all far superior to the number 1 duke of the Li clan, Li Ju. If they weren't robbers, who else could have such an aura? Li Wubuo's eagle-like eyes flashed, but they were filled with ecstasy. Our Li clan has finally seen the light of day. Reinforcements are here. And it's a character that has been talked about in the heavens for 10,000 years, tribulation. Everyone, follow me to welcome the distinguished guest. Li Wubuo said in a deep voice. However, everyone could tell that the voice of the clan leader, who usually didn't show his emotions on his face, was actually trembling slightly at this moment. Everyone stood up together. They walked out of the hall and stood at the stone steps in front of the hall. With a flash of white, the 3 young people appeared 500 feet away. Seeing so many people lined up to welcome them, they seemed to be stunned for a moment. Then, they walked over slowly. They finally met. The dragon-like tribulation brothers. All the supreme martial artists looked up and saw that these 3 people were all handsome, full of energy, and walking with a majestic gait. Among the 3 of them, although the one on the left moved with ease, there was a natural aura of a dragon flying in the sky. As for the one on the right, although he was walking with 2 legs, when everyone looked out, they could clearly feel that he was a phoenix soaring in the clear sky. One of them walked in the midst of the dancing dragons and dancing phoenixes. However, his aura was not suppressed at all. In fact, it was even more like the sun. Although he was gentle and elegant, his every move naturally revealed a kind of "I have the world in my hands, I have the world in my hands." He was full of confidence. It was as if in front of this person, all the difficulties in the world didn't exist. I'm unusually happy today, so I'm in a very good state. You know, ha ha ha. Chapter 1445. Li Wubu's face was a little red. He forced himself to calm down and asked in a low voice, "Xiongtu, these 3 people. Do you know them?" Li Xiongtu's face was also a little red from excitement. "Clan Master, they are the people I mentioned who can help the Li clan." Li Wubu no longer had any doubts. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. Everyone was sizing up the 3 people who were walking slowly toward them. There was a look of admiration in everyone's eyes. Just the 3 of them, facing dozens of high-level supreme martial artists, walked over calmly and confidently. Li Xiongtu looked at the 3 of them, his heart surging with emotions. He couldn't help but think of the day in the 3rd heavens. At that time, although he was weak, he didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. At that time, he had interacted with all 3 of them. In the beginning, their relationship was very peaceful. Then, the desire to win slowly grew. In the end, he even fought with these people at the Lake of Despair. Thinking of the battle at the Lake of Despair, Li Xiongtu thought of Dong Wushang. Then, his battle intent rose and a heroic aura suddenly rose. He couldn't help but step out of the crowd and shout, "So it's you guys. Where is Dong Wushang?" His voice was like thunder. Ao Xieyun, Mo Tianji and Rui Butong were also sizing up these people in front of them. Li Xiongtu stepped out of the crowd. Instantly, it was as if a mountain was standing in front of the 3 of them, majestic and imposing. At this moment, the 3 of them felt a sense of familiarity. Why does this guy look so much like Dong Wushang? Mo Tianji smiled and said, "Xiongtu, long time no see. Do you only remember Dong Wushang? So many brothers. Don't you recognize all of them?" Li Xiongtu snorted and said, "Of course I recognize all of you." Mo Tianji's "so many brothers" made the joy on the faces of the Li clan members increase by another notch. Only then did Mo Tianji turn around and look at Li Wubu. He smiled and said, "This elder's authority is heavy. Controlling the wind and clouds, could you be the clan master of the Li clan?" Since Li Wubu had guessed that the other party could be tribulation, he didn't dare to hesitate. He hurriedly smiled and said, "That's me." "May I ask the 3 of you?" Mo Tianji said, "I'm Tianji. This is Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong." He smiled sadly and said, "The blockade outside is very serious. The other brothers are still trying to break through. Boss was afraid that you guys wouldn't be able to hold on, so he gathered his strength. He sent the 3 of us in first." Li Wubu was so agitated that his entire face was flushed red. He said, "It's good that you're in, it's good that you're in." He was actually stuttering a little. He understood in his heart who Mo Tianji was talking about. He should be the Calamity Sword Master. Li Ju stood behind him. He looked at these 3 people, and said somewhat enviously, "Diwu Qingru's army has sealed and besieged us. It's impossible to guard against it. I'm afraid that only King of Hell Chu can contend against it in this world. Do the 3 of you have the confidence to keep Diwu Qingru in check?" Li Wubu gave him a sidelong glance, indicating for him not to spout nonsense. Li Xiongtu finally reacted and said, "Clan Lord, this is the person I mentioned just now who can contend against Diwu Qingru. This is Mo Tianji." He was known as the master of the abacus and ghostly calculation. He had always been brilliant in his calculations, taking every conceivable possibility into account. He had never been defeated. With him here, we won't be at a disadvantage in terms of military strength, but at least we won't be at a disadvantage in terms of strategy. Li Xiongtu had just finished speaking. The expressions of all the supreme martial artists of the Li clan changed. 4 words appeared in their minds at the same time: Calamity Strategist. Instantly, they were overjoyed. Mo Tianji smiled. This is precisely the reason why I'm here. However, whether we can withstand it or not still depends on the martial strength here. After all, if our strength is too weak, no matter how resourceful we are, it won't be of any use. Li Wubo heaved a long sigh of relief and said, "Don't worry about this, Brother Mo. Although we can't match up to the other party in terms of strength, we won't be too far apart." Then, he extended his hand and said, Please come into the main hall to talk." Mo Tianji nodded, his smile as gentle as spring water. "I'll do as you say." His smile made one feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. Accompanied by everyone else, everyone entered the main hall and took their seats. After chatting idly for a while, they returned to the main topic. "May I ask Clan Lord Li, how much strength does the Li clan have now?" Mo Tianji asked slowly, "What are the losses?" Before Li Wubo could say anything, Mo Tianji had already continued, "What I want is accurate data. This is related to the strategic deployment and survival of the clan. This was to say, if you want me to help you, you have to tell me the truth." Li Wubo nodded and said, "Right now, the Li clan has about 75% of its strength. We've already lost 25%. Moreover, the clans in the periphery have all been wiped out. However, our high-end strength hasn't been damaged." Mo Tianji nodded. 75%. This number was pretty much what he had estimated. Next, it would depend on the specific deployment and the number of high-end combat strength. Among the 8th grade supreme martial artists, there are still 1. 2 of them are at the peak of 8th grade supreme martial artists, 2 of them are at the beginner level of 8th grade supreme martial artists, 11 of them are at the peak level of 8th grade supreme martial artists, 1 of them is at the high level and 3 of them are at the beginner level. As for the 2nd grade supreme martial artists, Li Wubo listed out the Li clan's strength in detail. In total, there are 113 experts above the level of supreme martial artist. Other than that, there are also more than 200 martial saint experts. In addition, after the Dharma Supreme passed down the order, there are 2 secret troops set up. There are a total of 300 people. There are 13 supreme martial artist experts. However, their cultivation isn't very high. The highest is only at the 4th grade. The rest are all at the martial saint level. However, they are all above the middle grade martial saint level. At this point, Mo Tianji raised his head. Frowning, he asked, "What about the middle grade supreme martial artists of the Li clan?" Li Wubo hesitated for a moment before he said, "The Li clan only has the Elder Master and his personal guard, who is also his sworn brother. They are both middle-grade supreme martial artists. The Elder Master is at the peak of middle-grade supreme martial artist level. That guard is at the same level. However, the 2 of them," Mo Tianji nodded. "They might not make a move." Li Wubo smiled bitterly. Perhaps when the clan reaches a critical moment of life and death, the 2 Elder Masters will make a move. Mo Tianji let out an "oh" and lowered his head, as if he was thinking about something. No one dared to disturb him. After a long while, Mo Tianji said, "Clan leader Li, please arrange accommodations for the 3 of us. We haven't seen Xiong Tu for a long time. Can we just stay together?" Everyone was stunned. "Are you going to sleep just like that after asking for an explanation?" Li Wubo said, "Brother Mo. Cough cough, the problem with this countermeasure, during this period of time, the Li clan was really scared. Diwu Qingrou's unpredictable schemes had really scared them to the core. As for the planning," Mo Tianji smiled slightly and said, "Regarding this, no one has confidence in me for the time being. I can only be bold enough to take command once during the next operation and see the results. Also, clan leader Li, please send someone to send the topographic map of the northwest region to where I'm staying." "All right." Li Wubo agreed immediately. At once, he felt as if he had eaten a calming pill. With tribulation here, no matter who won or lost in the future. But for the time being, he only felt that half of the pressure on him had been relieved. Instantly, he felt much more relaxed. At the same time, a thought suddenly arose in his mind: if, one of Tribulation's people actually died in the hands of the 8 great clans. Then, right now, the 4 of them were in the Lee clan. And the most important one was the Sword Master. But he wasn't here. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. This thought flashed across his mind. While he was thinking about this, Mo Tianji was paying attention to his expression. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, like the spring breeze. When he sent Mo Tianji and the other 2 out to rest, Li Wubo finally couldn't help but ask through telepathy, "May I ask? Brother Mo, what did the Sword Master say?" Mo Tianji was silent for a moment. Then, he also replied through telepathy, "The Sword Master didn't say anything." Li Wubo's heart sank. He forced a smile and said, "Sorry to trouble you, brother." Mo Tianji nodded lightly. After Mo Tianji and the rest went out, Li Wubo heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he said, "Third Elder, 5th Elder, Zhu Ba Tian and the rest of the elders, please follow me." Everyone acknowledged his words and followed Li Wubo into the room. The rest of the people knew that these few leaders had something important to discuss. It was very likely that it was about how to cooperate with Tribulation. Thus, they hurriedly took their leave. "Why are you here to help me?" After returning to Li Xiongtu's small courtyard, Li Xiongtu finally asked this question. His eyes were filled with confusion. When he was in the hall just now, he was too embarrassed to ask this question. The other party was here for Li Xiongtu. If Li Xiongtu asked this question again, the confidence of the Li clan would be greatly affected. Mo Tianji said indifferently, "Helping you is also for the sake of gaining experience." Li Xiongtu snorted. He didn't believe it. Mo Tianji raised his head and looked at him. He said through telepathy, "Li Xiongtu, no matter why we're helping you, the Li clan only has a little hope after we came. I hope you can cooperate with me and stabilize the situation first. If you reveal what happened back then, we'll turn around and leave. Let's see if the Li clan can withstand the siege of the 8 super clans and the law enforcement officers." Li Xiongtu's eyes sharpened as he glared at Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji snorted and sat down calmly. Li Xiongtu stared at him for a long while before he finally sat down. He asked dully, "What's Dong Wushang's cultivation level now?" Rui Butong chuckled. "A little higher than you." Li Xiongtu's eyes were filled with fervent fighting spirit. A young lady in white came out with tea. Li Xiongtu revealed a gentle expression and said, "You can just let the servants do it. Do you need to come out personally?" The young lady in white said, "He's your friend. Of course, I have to serve him." She smiled and bowed to Mo Tianji and the other 2. "Hello." Mo Tianji and the other 2 stood up at the same time. They smiled and said, "Hello, sister-in-law. You're indeed an outstanding beauty." Li Xiongtu was instantly furious. "You're not even older than me. If you want to call me sister-in-law, you should call me sister-in-law." Rui Butong laughed. "Sister-in-law is still the best. It's so easy to say." As he spoke, he shamelessly walked over. "Sister-in-law, you see, I'm still single. Do you have any good sisters? Let me introduce you. Welcome. Your support is my greatest motivation. RV." Chapter 1446. Meng Huanhuan couldn't help but smile with a red face. She instantly believed that these people were indeed Li Xiongtu's friends. They were so familiar with each other. She said shyly, "We haven't gotten married yet." What she meant was that it wasn't appropriate to call her sister-in-law or sister-in-law. Ao Xieyun shouted, "Li Xiongtu, you idiot. Why don't you hurry up and marry such a beauty? I'm envious just looking at her." Li Xiongtu instantly became nervous. He stood in front of Meng Huanhuan and said, "Ao Xieyun, you bastard. You already have so many wives." He whispered to Meng Huanhuan, "Hurry up and go in. These people aren't good people." Ao Xieyun and the other 2 laughed. They were extremely happy. Seeing Meng Huanhuan leave, Li Xiongtu said, "Follow me." He turned around and left. Mo Tianji and the other 2 followed closely behind him and walked into a secret room in the courtyard. This secret room belongs to the Li clan. Li Xiongtu said in a low voice, "There used to be surveillance equipment, but I destroyed it." The clan didn't say anything. Mo Tianji chose a chair and sat down. "What do you want to say?" Li Xiongtu turned around and said slowly, "I don't know why you're here. But I know that you, Mo Tianji, definitely don't have good intentions." Mo Tianji smiled and didn't say anything. Ao Xieyun and Rui Biyu Tong were amused. It seemed that Mo Tianji's treachery was deeply rooted in everyone's hearts. Even the honest Li Xiongtu knew that he didn't have good intentions. The Li clan is in a precarious situation now. The only one who can barely turn or maintain this situation is you. Li Xiongtu said, "On this point, I don't deny it. However, I want to know, what exactly do you want? If you just want to use all the value of the Li clan and destroy the Li clan after that, then I'll send you away now. Since it's going to be destroyed sooner or later, then the process is the same." Li Xiongtu said, "Seeing that we're acquaintances, I won't make things difficult for you." Mo Tianji smiled lightly. "I really want to help the Li clan tide over this crisis. Although we have our own reasons for doing so, if the Li clan is still gone in the end, it won't do us any good." Li Xiongtu revealed a cold smile and said, "Actually, you are the real tribulation, right?" Mo Tianji was startled. Then, he smiled and said, "Everyone says that Li Xiongtu is simple-minded. It seems that the rumors are not true." Li Xiongtu said angrily, "I don't have any intentions. It was only recently that someone came to ask me about this. I finally understood that the reason why my family treated me so well in the past was because they suspected that I was one of the tribulations." Mo Tianji sneered, "Are you denying it?" "Yes. I deny it." Li Xiongtu said angrily, "I'm not, so why can't I deny it?" Mo Tianji sneered, "That's right. Does anyone believe it?" "No." Li Xiongtu said dejectedly. He suddenly turned around like a whirlwind. "All of this is because of you. Or rather, because of you. Other than you, no one else would have set up such a sinister trap at that time. I don't care how much I deny it now. No one will believe it." Li Xiongtu said bitterly, "It's only been 3 days since I found out about all this. But I can still guess that you've planned for so long in advance. You definitely wouldn't watch the Li clan be destroyed. Now, you're here indeed." He sneered. He looked at Mo Tianji with his sharp eyes and said sarcastically, "And you're here as the savior of the world." Mo Tianji suddenly felt a strong aura coming toward him. "You're shameless." Mo Tianji and the other two were surprised. They didn't expect Li Xiongtu to have such deep feelings for the Li clan. Li Xiongtu took a deep breath and said, "The Li clan has nurtured me. I must repay this kindness. If you want to use the Li clan and hurt the Li clan, you'll have to do it over my dead body." Mo Tianji's expression gradually became serious. He said, "I can't promise anything. But, if you insist, I'll try my best. If there's a good outcome, I'll make sure the Li clan doesn't suffer so much." Li Xiongtu looked at him seriously for a while and said, "I believe you." A strange light flashed in Mo Tianji's eyes. He said, "You're so loyal to the Li clan, but the Li clan might not really trust you, right?" Li Xiongtu said angrily, "What are you talking about? The Li clan has been very kind to me. Almost all of their precious resources have been provided to me. Everyone can see how much they value me. Maybe it's because of benefits, but they're doing this because I, Li Xiongtu, am a family. What do you know? Don't try to use your petty heart against me." Mo Tianji let out a long sigh. He actually felt a little helpless. He looked at Li Xiongtu with pity in his eyes. "The Li clan has treated me so well. I'll repay them with my life." Li Xiongtu's strong body stood straight. Under his thick eyebrows, his eyes were bright. "As a man, I should remember the source and repay kindness. Only then can I live up to my pride and live up to the world. I have no regrets in life or death." Mo Tianji let out a heavy sigh in his heart. Li Xiongtu was undoubtedly a heroic figure. However, his overly upright character had doomed him to tragedy this time. Could it not be reversed? In the secret chamber of the Li clan, Li Wubu's expression was unusually excited. Looking at the 10 people in front of him, he said, "This time, although the Li clan has fallen into an unprecedented crisis, there's also an unprecedented opportunity that has descended upon the Li clan." Li Ju frowned. He seemed to have understood something. The others didn't say anything. They just looked at Li Wubo. "Tribulation, there are 4 people in our clan now. Furthermore, they're clearly here to help us. We have to seize this opportunity. Perhaps the Li clan won't exist after the battle in the northwest. However, this is still our chance." When Li Wubo said this, he panted rather agitatedly. That elder asked hesitantly, "What do you mean, clan leader?" A ray of light flashed across Li Wubo's eyes. He said, "What I mean is, tribulation. As the name suggests, there's only one person. However, it can only be one person. In the past, there weren't any incidents of sudden deaths. However, no matter what, even if one of them dies, one of them has to become a tribulation. I don't think anyone will deny this." Li Wubo's eyes flashed coldly. "Yes, logically speaking. That should be the case." Everyone nodded slowly. If that Ao Xieyun or Rui Butong were to die in the battle with the 8 superclans, what would happen? "What will happen?" Li Wubo asked viciously. Everyone frowned. They couldn't help but start to consider. "Father, this must not happen," Li Ju hurriedly said. "These 2 people must not die." "Huh?" Li Wubo looked at his son in surprise. He didn't expect that the first person to jump out to object would be his son, who was the most passionate about this matter. "Firstly, they're here to help us. If they die, even if we didn't set them up, they'll still suspect us. They'll take their anger out on us," Li Ju said. Li Wubo nodded slowly. "Secondly, tribulation can't have people with the same surname. Since there's already Li Xiongtu, there can't be a second person with the surname Li." Li Ju's eyes flashed coldly. "You mean?" Li Wubo asked. "What I mean is, although Li Xiongtu also has the surname Li, but, at the end of the day, he's not a member of the Li clan. If the Li clan is really destroyed, Li Xiongtu can establish a new Li clan. However, that won't be our Li clan. However, this has been passed down since ancient times. The surname Tribulation has been decided since long ago." Li Ju pursed his thin lips, revealing a cruel arc. Now that the Tribulation Swordmaster has already obtained the 7th fragment of the Tribulation Sword, it's already confirmed that he belongs to the Li clan. Therefore, this Li cannot be changed. Li Wubo nodded slowly. His eyes were deep. "Since that's the case, why don't we bring forward the plan that you mentioned previously, father?" Li Ju gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Let Li Xiongtu die." When these words were spoken, everyone's body trembled as they raised their heads to look at him. "Brilliant plan," the elder who spoke earlier praised. "Li can't be changed, but people can be changed. This can be considered as cheating." Li Wubo pondered. "Father, ever since Li Xiongtu came to the upper 3 heavens and joined the clan, wasn't this what we wanted? We gave him all kinds of preferential treatment and let him enjoy all the resources to his heart's content. Now, it's time for him to do something for the clan. Even if it means taking his life, it's only right and proper." Li Ju said viciously, "A fat pig that has been fattened up, shouldn't we slaughter it? Could it be that we're willing to watch this person who doesn't belong to the Li clan sacrifice our entire clan just because of the word Li? We're not going to have a share in his glorious achievements." Li Wubo looked at everyone, seemingly unsure of what to do. "Elders, what you mean is," everyone's eyes revealed a fervent glow. "Eldest young master is right. 3rd elder." "You mean?" Li Wubo looked at the 3rd elder, Li Qingliu. The white-bearded Li Qingliu had a conflicted look on his face. However, after thinking for a long time, he said slowly, "Even fertile water should not fall into the hands of outsiders, what more when it's an important matter of the clan's bloodline inheritance." Li Wubo took a deep breath and said, "Since that's the case, then this matter is settled. However, this matter had to be done secretly and seamlessly. If we give ourselves away, I'm afraid we'll go for wool and come home shorn. That would be really bad." Of course, everyone rubbed their palms together. During this period of time, you should interact with them more. You must build a relationship with them, Li Wubo said calmly. Yes. Li Ju stood up abruptly, his eyes shining with excitement. I'll think of a way to send Li Xiongtu away. Or. Li Wubo's eagle-like eyes flashed sharply. He said slowly, yes, he has used so many of our Li clan's resources. Now that his motive has been revealed and the tribulation has been confirmed, the surname Li can't be changed. It's time for him to pay the price. The next day, Mo Tianji was still studying the map and flipping through the information about the various snowy mountains, memorizing them one by one. At this moment, someone came to report, Diwu Qingru has launched another attack. This time, the three superclans are advancing from three different directions. The clan leader has invited Mr. Mo over for a meeting. Mo Tianji kept the map and closed his eyes to think for a while. He murmured, so fast. Together with Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong, he went out. When he went out, he was surprised to find that Li Xiongtu wasn't around. The one waiting outside was the Grand Duke of the Li clan, Li Ju. Where's Li Xiongtu? A gloomy look flashed across Mo Tianji's eyes as he asked calmly. Many people have asked me why I'm so happy, haha. Today, I received a call from the captain. This year's old comrades gathering will be held in Lai Wu. Also, the captain said that as long as they're still alive, they'll be there. This news made me extremely excited. I was so excited that I opened the window and shouted a few times. Haha, I haven't seen so many brothers since they retired from the army. I can finally see them. The old comrades gathering will be held in May. For this matter, I specially bought a desk calendar and started the countdown. G. Chapter 1447. Today, Li Ju was dressed in snow-white robes. He looked simple and unadorned, but he also had an air of elegance. He stood outside the small courtyard with his hands clasped behind his back. He was tall and straight. Coupled with his sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, he had a warm smile on his face. He really looked like a talented person. However, Mo Tianji was obviously not interested in Li Ju's attire. What a joke. Mo Tianji had seen many handsome men. Among the brothers, which one of them was not a handsome man? Not to mention, there was Xiedan Qiong, who was so beautiful that he could be described as peerless in his generation. Although Li Ju's looks were not bad, compared to Xiedan Qiong, he was not even close to Jiyu Duxing. Not to mention, there was also Chu Yang, who boasted that he was the most handsome man in the world. In Mo Tianji's eyes, Li Ju was not even as good-looking as Tan Tan. Therefore, the first thing he asked was about Li Xiongtu. Li Ju was obviously prepared for this question. Brother Mo, Xiongtu was sent out by the clan to handle some matters. He will be back soon. It was this little brother who volunteered to welcome Brother Mo and the rest to the main hall. Mo Tianji replied with an O and said indifferently, Grand Duke Li is too polite. It's just that I don't know what's so important that you have to disturb our reunion. Li Ju chuckled and answered fluently. He lowered his voice and even winked mysteriously as he said, well, no one can help him. It's Miss Huanhuan's family. Li Xiongtu went to welcome them. Ha. Do you understand now? Mo Tianji obviously did not find this joke amusing. His eyes flashed coldly as he said, so, Miss Huanhuan also went? Li Ju smiled. That's not it. After all, the two of them are about to get married. Miss Huanhuan's body is not very good. It's better for her to stay here and recuperate. When Brother Xiongtu comes back, he will give her a surprise. He blinked his eyes and said, Brother Mo, girls like surprises. Mo Tianji smiled. You really have good intentions. Haha, Li Xiongtu said, Brother Mo, please. My father and the others have been looking forward to it. Now, let me see Brother Mo's power. With a wave of his hand, it would rain. Defeat Diwu Qingru. Mo Tianji took 2 steps forward and said, Ao Xieyun, I'm a little worried about Miss Huanhuan being here alone. Why don't you stay and accompany her? Li Ju's face changed slightly as he said, this isn't very good, right? After all, there are differences between men and women. Ao Xieyun laughed heartily and said, Young Master Li, I'm sure you still don't know the feelings between us brothers. Not to mention being in the same courtyard as Miss Huan Huan, even if we were really in the same room, my brother would definitely not have any doubt. Li Ju laughed dryly. He said with some envy, I really envy such a brotherly relationship. Mo Tianji smiled and said, let's go. Li Ju had a feeling that he had nowhere to go and maintained his gentle demeanor. He smiled confidently, Big brother Mo, please. Mo Tianji suddenly stopped and asked with a smile, may I ask how old Duke Li is? Li Ju's face turned ashen as he said, I've wasted 30 years. Mo Tianji indifferently said, oh, you're 30, and I'm only 22. If we were to go by age, I should be calling you uncle. Now that I hear you call me big brother, I feel weird. On the side, Rui Biu Tong laughed loudly and almost couldn't breathe. A trace of anger flashed in Li Ju's eyes as he said, but Brother Mo's achievements are beyond the reach of those who are tens of thousands of years old. There's no such thing as the beginning and the end of learning. Mo Tianji indifferently said, yes. On the side, Rui Biu Tong laughed loudly, Duke Li, if that's the case, how much better do you think Mo Tianji is than you? At least at the level of a few years. Li Ju suppressed his anger and said, a few years. Isn't that underestimating Brother Mo? In terms of intelligence, Brother Mo's cultivation is at least 10,000 years higher than mine. Everyone knows of Brother Mo's talent, so why do we need to argue? Rui Biu Tong laughed, since he's more than 10,000 years better than you, then you shouldn't call him Brother Mo. You should call him Ancestor. Ancestor Mo. Li Ju was furious and indifferently said, may I ask, how much is the difference between Brother Rui and Brother Mo? Rui Biu Tong chuckled, Mo Tianji is far worse than me. At least a few years worse. Mo Tianji nodded, yes, Biu Tong is much better than me. As for Brother Li, you overestimate me a little. What he meant was, yes, I'm very humble. I'm definitely not more than 10,000 years better than you, but I'm confident that I'm more than 10,000 years better than you. So, it seems reasonable for you to call me Ancestor. Li Ju was naturally not stupid. Of course, he understood the meaning of Mo Tianji's words. A sharp light flashed in his eyes and he secretly swore, damn, don't think that you're so great just because you're one of the tribulations. When Li Xiong-tu dies and becomes one of the tribulations, see if I can't kill you too, bastard. The three of them smiled amiably and walked forward. Rui Biu Tong secretly sent a message to Mo Tianji, I thought you were going to feign civility. Mo Tianji sighed, Li Xiong-tu is a hero. Although I want to use him, I can't lose my respect. Furthermore, I would also like to do my best to fight for his wish. He paused and said, as a person, there's always a bottom line. Rui Biu Tong sneered, but now it seems that your fight is useless. Mo Tianji said calmly, even if I can't fight for it, it's better than having a fly following me around every day. Li Ju is very ambitious. It's not too late to feign civility when Li Xiong-tu's side develops beyond control. Rui Biu Tong was surprised, but you and I have already offended Li Ju. When the time comes, how will he? Mo Tianji sneered, Li Ju is now a dog. As long as I have meat in my hands, even if I kick him 800 times, when he wants to eat meat, he'll still wag his tail in front of me. He'll come when I summon him and leave when I command him. Rui Biu Tong almost laughed out loud. On the side, Li Ju looked at Rui Biu Tong in surprise. He couldn't help but ask, Brother Rui, what have you thought of that makes you so happy? Rui Biu Tong held back his laughter and said, I thought of a dog I raised when I was young. It was very obedient. Good dog. Li Ju nodded, yes, sometimes, dogs are more reliable than people. Rui Biu Tong nodded repeatedly, yes, yes. Then, he sent a message to Mo Tianji, guess where they arranged Li Xiong-tu to go? Mo Tianji said, the mission this time shouldn't be fake. However, as long as Li Xiong-tu goes out on a mission once, there will be endless missions waiting for him. One day, he will be killed by the Li clan. This is for sure. If Li Ju didn't come today, Li Xiong-tu would be fine. But since Li Ju came, it proves that the Li clan has already decided to give up on Li Xiong-tu. But why do you want Ao Sheyun to stay? Rui Biu Tong was confused. If you want him to die, you must first make him crazy. Mo Tianji sent a message with a serious face. Meng Huanhuan is Li Xiongtu's weakness. Li Xiongtu may not be in big trouble in the short term. But the Li clan can make a move on Meng Huanhuan at any time. Once Meng Huanhuan dies, Li Xiongtu will definitely collapse. At that time, he won't need anyone to frame him. He will fight to the death himself. Rui Bu Tong made an O sound and suddenly understood. Mo Tianji said indifferently, however, the more despicable and shameless the Li clan is, the more I like it. Because that way, I can make use of them without any psychological pressure. Rui Bu Tong said fiercely, let these bastards die. Mo Tianji nodded indifferently. That's for sure. When Ao Xieyun walked in, Meng Huanhuan was embroidering a handkerchief. Ao Xieyun stood 5 feet away and admired it. He said, sister-in-law is really clever. Meng Huanhuan made an ah sound and stood up. Brother Ao didn't go with you? Ao Xieyun smiled. I'm very tired. I need to rest. Meng Huanhuan said, I see. I'll go and serve you tea. Ao Xieyun said, there's no need. Then, as if he thought of something, he said, sister-in-law is very elegant. One look and I can tell that you're a lady from a respectable family. Who else is in your family? Meng Huanhuan said, Brother Ao, you must be joking. I'm just an ordinary girl. I still have my parents at home. The two of them are old and have no cultivation. So, they're living outside for the time being. Ao Xieyun said with interest, it seems that you don't live far away. Meng Huanhuan smiled. Yes, it's not far. But it's not near either. It's about 150 kilometers away. Ao Xieyun made a sound of acknowledgement and asked in a roundabout way. He seemed to have no intention of doing so. However, Meng Huanhuan had Ao Xieyun's experience. In just a few sentences, Ao Xieyun managed to get all the information out of her. Then, Ao Xieyun took his leave and returned to his room to think carefully. However, his supreme martial artist's consciousness covered the entire small courtyard. Ao Xieyun was very clear about his responsibilities. 3 armies. Mo Tianji looked at the map of the enemy's situation in front of him. He looked at the information flying in like snowflakes. He opened the map one by one and a few thin steel needles were nailed together according to their categories. This move alone made Li Wubua and the others from the Li clan feel a chill in their hearts. It was indeed extraordinary. Mo Tianji had made a move, and the confusing situation had become clear in an instant. The Shi clan is here, the Xiao clan is here, and the Chen clan is here. Mo Tianji frowned and said, the Chen clan is alone. However, the Shi clan and the Xiao clan are only separated by 2 mountains. And these 3 positions are all guarded by people from the Li clan. Looking at the situation and the momentum, Diwu Qingru probably only wants to uproot one of them. It's definitely impossible for him to uproot all 3 of them. Mo Tianji said thoughtfully. Yes. We're thinking that the other party's target should be one of them. Li Wubua said, the other party has already used this tactic many times. However, every time we respond, we make mistakes. We can't even come into contact with the other party's main force. By the time we realize it, it's already too late. Mo Tianji said indifferently, they can change their tactics at any time. Chapter 1448. Everyone was stunned. The other party's 3 forces shot over like arrows, each with their own target. Just when everyone was in a state of panic, Mo Tianji pointed at the 4th target. The 3 Li clan strongholds, White Snow Cliff, Centipede Ridge and Eagle Distress Peak. As long as they could take down any one of them, they would be able to plant a nail in the heart of the Li clan and gain a firm foothold. From there on, the continuous influx of troops would cause further pressure. However, Mo Tianji was now pointing at the Pear Blossom Slope, which was 1 step ahead of the 3 target. This place was at the back left, and beside it was an unshakable mountain range. At present, it could be said to have no value at all. The Li clan had only sent a few martial saints to do the job. Moreover, compared to the 3 main strongholds, this place was more remote. Get the men ready, Mo Tianji said, at least 10 supreme martial artists. In this battle, we have to take down the Shi clan at all cost. Shi clan? Li Wubo couldn't help but widen his eyes. The Shi clan was on the far right, but this place was on the far left. Mo Tianji said, do as I say. Li Wubo was a little hesitant. He asked, may I ask why, Brother Mo? Mo Tianji said, the loss of those 3 strongholds will cause a tug-of-war. Both sides will attack and defend with all their might. To the enemy's military advisor, this is equivalent to sacrificing 800 men to kill 1,000 enemies. The enemy's strategy is to boil the frog in warm water. They are also conserving their strength. Therefore, they won't choose to fight head-on. And this place is insignificant to both sides. Therefore, even if it is taken over by the enemy, the Li clan won't fight with all their might. When Mo Tianji said this, everyone nodded. Yes, why would they fight with all their might in a place with no value? Mo Tianji casually wrote down the names of 5 places and lined them up on the table. They were slightly disorderly. They were listed in order: Pear Blossom Slope, White Snow Cliff, Centipede Ridge, Eagle Distress Peak, Manchu Gorge. But, what if after taking over this Pear Blossom Slope, they take over this Manchu Gorge? Mo Tianji pointed to another blind spot, Manchu Gorge. It was also an insignificant place that wasn't valued. And the Pear Blossom Slope that he pointed out earlier. They were on the left and right, extending inwards. Everyone frowned. If you still can't see it, then, after occupying the Pear Blossom Slope and the Manchu Gorge, why don't you immediately attack and occupy this Taowu mountain range? Mo Tianji pointed at the enemy in the middle and assumed a posture as if he was going to risk his life to take this stronghold. Centipede Ridge. Everyone's expression changed. After Centipede Ridge was occupied, the 2 originally useless strongholds immediately became sharp and fierce. They became a battle fortress, a triangular battle group. Furthermore, both Bai Shuaya and Yingqiu Peak were being attacked from 2 sides. If these 2 strongholds each guard a clan's elite troops, and then take down Centipede Ridge by force, we will be able to do so. In that case, the 3 points formed a mutual defense. They could advance and attack. If we retreat, we can defend. Moreover, the enemy will have an endless supply of reinforcements. We won't have any way to stop them. In the end, we can only give up the fight for Centipede Ridge. And after giving up, the situation was pressing. There were 2 strongholds on the left and right of Centipede Ridge, Bai Shuaya and Eagle's Distress Peak. Thus, he fell into an awkward situation where he was surrounded by enemies. He would have to give them up because he couldn't defend them anymore. If he tried to defend them, he would only be sacrificing a lot of lives. That way, it would become a meat grinder for the enemy. Therefore, he could only give up. Once he gave up, the enemy would occupy 5 strongholds at once. Thus, he would form a true complete blockade. And the only advantage we have now is, we can still enter and exit from these 5 places, but after this place is completely sealed, it's like we are being chased from the sea into a pond. Other than retreating in, there's no way out. Mo Tianji took out 2 brushes and placed one on each side. He said, and these 2 mountains, one is next to the Pear Blossom Slope and the other is next to the Manchu Gorge. They are both 10,000 zhong tall peaks. Moreover, they are different from other mountain ranges. Even a middle-grade supreme martial artist wouldn't be able to move them. Mo Tianji was a little disdainful. No wonder you were beaten up by Diwu Qingru like this. All of you have pig brains. If he were to discuss these things with Chu Yang, one look would be enough. To think that he would have to give a long explanation to you. Looking at Mo Tianji's posture on the table, everyone's faces were a little ashen. Yes, Mo Tianji's explanation made everyone understand. Everyone was a little dispirited. Not only was the other party advancing step by step, he was also farsighted. Before the first move was made, he had already foreseen the 3rd, the 5th, and even the final move. And everyone was calculating the motive of the other party's first move. This was the gap. An unbridgeable gap. Could it be that the other party started from the Manchu Gorge? The outcome would be the same, said one of the elders. When he said this, Mo Tianji's face twitched. The others looked at this elder as if they were looking at an idiot. The Mantu Gorge wasn't the same as the Pear Blossom Slope. That place and the Eagle's Distress Peak were mutually supportive. If they couldn't take it down, it would be a protracted battle. Moreover, they would immediately remind the Li clan to defend the Pear Blossom Slope. If the other party could do such a stupid thing, then they would really be stupider than a pig brain. Arrange for manpower immediately. Arrange for 80 supreme martial artists to come out and pull out the secret troop. Li Wubo made a prompt decision and immediately gave the order. Split into 3 groups. Mo Tianji said, I'll arrange the direction of each group in a while. Li Wubo was already convinced and immediately agreed. The only thing that he didn't understand was what Mo Tianji said about gathering forces to defeat the She clan first. Why was he so sure that it was the She clan? Right at this moment, 3 invisible falcons flew over. At the same time, the communication jade in the hall also lit up. Li Wubo opened the new intelligence and his expression changed. The other party is changing their formation. Wind and snow. It seems that the 3 groups have inexplicably intertwined. Changing their formation? Mo Tianji took the intelligence and hurriedly glanced at it. Then, he closed his eyes. After thinking for a while, he said, Gather the groups immediately. I want to arrange for battle. All right. Li Wubo immediately waved his hands. The other party's 3 groups were intertwined this time. If it had been before, the Li clan would have already been busy because the other party's target was even more confusing. It was even harder to grasp which direction the other party was attacking. Only one thing was clear. The other party had already given up on the rightmost side. Only Bai Shuaya and Centipede Ridge were left. Mo Tianji and Li Wubo walked out together. For this battle, the She clan, Xiao clan, and the Chen clan. The Chen clan. Both the Xiao clan and the Chen clan have high-level supreme martial artists. Xiao Zhangyang definitely wants to take revenge now. Therefore, his target should be a head-on battle. There are no top experts there to launch a surprise attack on the Pear Blossom Slope. It can be considered a small battle and Xiao Zhangyang won't be interested in it. It's also a bit of a waste to send giants like the Xiao clan and the Chen clan there. Therefore, the Xiao clan and the Chen clan's temporary mission should be to attack the reinforcements. The She clan is currently the weakest and doesn't have a leader. Moreover, their desire for revenge is at its strongest and they need substantial battle results to comfort themselves. Therefore, if I were the enemy's general, I would arrange for the She clan to attack the Pear Blossom Slope. Occupy the Pear Blossom Slope. There's another point. Diwu Qingru doesn't know that I'm here now. This is my first move. This is also the only time when I have the most advantage. Therefore, in this battle, I must mobilize the entire army and catch him off guard. Mo Tianji said, by the time Diwu Qingru realizes that I'm already here, it won't be easy to take advantage of him in the future. Mo Tianji hurriedly stood up and said as he walked out with Li Wubo. So that's how it is. Li Wubo was extremely impressed. Moreover, he was also extremely shocked. So this was a true wise man. In the past, he had thought that he was also a talented commander. However, when compared to Mo Tianji, the gap between them was immediately apparent. The gap between them was not just a little bit. Not only did he know the other party's deployment, but he also knew the distribution of troops and strategic objectives. He even deduced the other party's mentality. How could there be a defeat in such a battle? 200 people stood below. In the hall, 2 8th-grade Supreme Martial Artists and 2 7th-grade Supreme Martial Artists immediately stepped forward and stood at the leading positions of their respective teams. Everyone, split up. Mo Tianji ordered. The 200 people were divided into 4 teams. One team had 80 people, another had 40 people, one had 50 people and one had 30 people. In total, there were 200 people. Including the 4 leaders, there were 204 people. The teams of 30 and 40 will combine and head to the Pear Blossom Slope immediately. You must ensure that your whereabouts are concealed. Once you discover the enemy, kill them immediately. It's best if you can lay in ambush outside the pear blossom slope without anyone noticing before the enemy arrives. For this, all of you will have to rush. Yes. This team of 80 people will hide in the dark. Do not allow anyone to discover where you are. As long as the other two armies of the enemy come to reinforce the pear blossom slope, stop them at all cost. Yes. The team of 50 people will follow behind the team of 80 people within 10,000 feet. You are only allowed to join the battle at the last moment if the situation is critical. Otherwise, you will be the reserve team and are not allowed to act rashly. Yes. Mo Tianji did not know the names of the supreme martial artists, but he could not be bothered to remember their names. He only referred to them as team of 50 people and team of 80 people. However, this way, it was more direct. The survival of the Li clan can basically be determined in this battle. All of you seniors are also experienced in the martial world. There are some things that I don't need to remind you in detail. Therefore, everyone knows what to do. If any team makes a mistake, you know what to do. Mo Tianji said the last sentence and completed the strategic deployment. Li Wubo stepped forward immediately. With the battle at hand, this clan leader of the Li clan had to say a few words. However, he did not say anything. He only stood in front of the team and gazed at them affectionately. Suddenly, he bent down and kowtowed deeply. Everyone, the Li clan is in your hands. Our ancestors and future generations are in your hands. Even Mo Tianji secretly admired this gesture of bowing to the ground. I need everyone's help with something. Since the second year after I joined the army, perhaps because of the training back then, I developed a tinnitus problem. Usually, it's nothing much. Anyway, as long as I'm awake, I can hear the chirping of insects and cicadas. Of course, it wasn't very loud in the beginning. However, since last year, the tinnitus suddenly became serious. After the new year this year, I feel even more miserable. It's as if there are always 10,000 cicadas screaming at the top of their lungs in my ears. Does anyone have any folk prescription for treating tinnitus? Or any other methods? It seems that this thing can't be treated without treatment. Chapter 1449. Pear Blossom Slope. The 72 experts of the Li clan were buried deep in the snow, blocking off all auras. They didn't even reveal their eyes, suppressing all their cultivation, leaving only the most primitive function of their ears to feel. Everyone's heart was filled with a sense of brutality. During this period of time, they had been severely suppressed. Now, they finally had a chance to counterattack this time. It could be said that for the past 6 months, the Li clan had been so aggrieved that they were about to curse. All of them were powerless, they could only passively take the beating, their eyes red from grievance. Once they engaged in battle, the earth would definitely crack and the mountains would collapse. They would use all their strength. Mo Tianji's brilliant foresight gave them too much confidence. An invincible military advisor. How did they have one too? Damn it. This was an unparalleled confidence. The dejection and despair from the previous period was swept away. In the distance, in the pure white snow, there were white figures advancing rapidly. The 3 teams had already undergone 2 changes in formation, making the situation even more confusing. The targets of the 3 teams became blurred at the same time, making it seem like it was possible to attack here, but it was also very possible to attack there. Even attacking the 3rd target was also a matter of uncertainty. The 3 teams all carried the belief that they would win, and with a posture full of confidence, they charged forward at lightning speed. The distance was about right. 50 miles ahead, the 3 teams would split up. One team would cut off the connection between Centipede Ridge and Bai Shuaya as a maneuver, the other team would feign an attack on Bai Shuaya. These 2 teams were all bluffing, because even if Centipede Ridge and Bai Shuaya were to be taken down, but under the attacks from 3 sides, they wouldn't be able to defend. And it was a vital place of the Li clan, so they would definitely fight for it with all their might. And the real sharp sword was aimed straight at Pear Blossom Slope. This operation was named by Diwu Qingru as 3 swords for Pear Blossom Slope. Sending out so many experts, Diwu Qingru was determined to get this pear blossom slope. Are you ready? The blizzard hit their faces. Xiao Zhengyang didn't care at all, his gaze cold as he asked in a deep voice. Almost. Chen Jianlong smiled cruelly. On the She clan's side, someone smiled indignantly. The blood of our She clan. It won't be wasted. Seniors, thank you for your support. Millimeter. You're welcome. The blood debt of Shi Chishu and his brother is in this battle. Revenge. Xiao Zhangyang smiled ruthlessly. Be careful along the way, I wish you success. More than 10 experts of the She clan clasped their fists in unison. As they spoke, they had already flown thousands of feet ahead. An ordinary army of the lower three heavens would need at least half a day to cover the distance of 50 kilometers. However, they might not be able to cover it even in a day under such heavy snow. However, under the feet of these experts, it only took half an incense stick's worth of time, or even less. Split. At Xiao Zhengyan's command, the Xiao clan's troops suddenly separated from the main group like a sharp arrow. Split Chen's right. At Chen Jianlong's command, the Chen clan's wind-chasing beasts swept up a whirlwind and snowflakes as they charged forward. She clans of clan slope of clan of the of them. Xiao Zhengyan's voice was still echoing in the air, and the three teams had already completely separated from each other. Of the like three snow-white deadly arrows, they fiercely pierced forward. In the blink of an eye, they had separated by thousands of feet, disappearing from each other's sight. With the speed of lightning, the distance between the three teams grew bigger and bigger. Pear blossom slope. Of the Li clan's ambush. An 8th grade supreme martial artist and a 7th grade supreme martial artist looked at each other and began to talk telepathically. They're here. Their target is indeed Pear blossom slope. That military advisor Mo is really a god. Nonsense, how can he be the strategist if he's not a god? We also think that we're quite smart. Why aren't we? That's true. But it might not be the She clan. If it's really the She clan, I'll go back and kowtow to him. I reckon it's very likely. You'll definitely kowtow to him. Then, the two of them immediately ordered, the enemy has appeared, prepare for battle. Everyone's fighting spirit was instantly ignited. It's finally here. On the high mountain next to Pear Blossom Slope, the clouds were everywhere and the snow was still thick. Chu Yang, Mo Qingwu, Mo Lei and Dong Wushang were on a prominent cedar tree here, looking down quietly. I still don't understand why you're staying here, boss. Dong Wushang was a little dissatisfied. This is obviously a place where even birds don't shit. There are so many vital places where a war could break out, but you just had to choose here. Chu Yang snorted, rolled his eyes and didn't say anything. He knew that Dong Wushang was just trying to find something to talk about. Besides, Chu Yang also discovered a problem. As long as Mo Lei was beside him, Dong Wushang would be more talkative than usual and would have a desire to express himself. This was applicable to any young man in love. But Chu Yang really didn't expect a blockhead like Dong Wushang to have such a reaction. He was secretly happy for him. Looks like Dong Wushang is really in love. Mo Qingwu raised her little face. Brother Wushang, Chu Yang chose here for a reason. Why don't we make a bet? Dong Wushang grinned. What bet? If a war really breaks out here, as Chu Yang said, Brother Wushang, you'll lose. Then give me all the inner cores of spirit beasts that you can get in the future. I want to feed them to Little Snow, Mo Qingwu said seriously. She had a kind of blind confidence in Chu Yang. If Chu Yang said that there would be a war here, then there would definitely be a war. Dong Wushang rolled his eyes and said, future inner cores of spirit beasts. Chu Yang smiled. That's too rigid. Wouldn't you be asking Wushang to get the inner cores for you? It's not very good. Let's change it to those within 100 years. Mo Qingwu's rosy little mouth twitched. How ruthless. I actually only want 1 year's, Dong Wushang said heartily, no problem. But what if you lose? Mo Qingwu rolled her eyes. What if I lose? Chu Yang said at the side, if Qingwu loses. I'll give you 2 complete versions of the heavy pills. Dong Wushang's eyes lit up. Deal? Mo Qingwu pouted. I never go back on my word. I'll bet. Dong Wushang was exultant. He didn't care much about himself, but Mo Lei was different. If she had 2 complete versions of heavy pills in her hands, it would be equivalent to Mo Lei having 2 more lives. Let's seal the deal. Mo Qingwu stretched out her palm. Dong Wushang couldn't wait to give it a slap. The deal is set. No backing out. Chu Yang smiled and looked at him. Silly boy, you've been fooled. To think that you can't wait to fight for your wife's benefits. Little guy. If it wasn't for this bet, would I have mistreated your wife? But this way. You're young, so be prepared to work for Qingwu for 100 years. Don't bet. Mo Lei, who had been paying attention to the outside world, was the first to realize that something was wrong. She hurriedly turned back to stop him. But she just happened to meet Dong Wushang's exultant 4 words. The deal is set. No backing out. Mo Lei covered her face with her hands. What kind of blockhead did she find for her husband? He was so excited that he sold himself out. Dong Wushang's right hand hadn't returned yet. He just stared blankly below, completely dumbfounded. He turned into a snow sculpture. His big mouth opened and closed. The expression on his face was very interesting. He didn't expect that he would lose the bet right after it was set. There wasn't even any buffer. This was too direct. No wonder Dong Wushang couldn't take it. If it were anyone else, they would only be caught in the dark. Looking at his hand that hadn't returned yet, Dong Wushang wanted to cry but had no tears. He wished he could chop off his own hand. This was too much, because at this moment, a terrifying murderous aura suddenly rushed up from below. Like a raging sea, it swept across a radius of dozens of miles in an instant. It was the She clan. They had officially launched their attack. They were only 5 miles away from Pear Blossom Slope. It was the most suitable time for them to charge. The She clan's desire for revenge rose sharply, almost to the point of collapse. They rushed over like a tsunami. Pear Blossom Slope, no matter what, they had to take it down. 17 people swept past like a whirlwind. They were less than 2,000 feet away from Pear Blossom Slope. They could even see a frightened face on Pear Blossom Slope now. Then, a sharp roar, not good. Hearing the frightened voice, the She clan's faces were filled with cruelty. Not good. This was just the beginning. Everyone's eyes were focused on Pear Blossom Slope. They were about to charge up in one go, right at this moment. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Without any warning, a burst of sword energy flashed and exploded right in front of the She clan's troop. At this moment, the Li clan's experts who had been lying in ambush for a long time finally made their move. Moreover, every single one of them had gone all out from the very beginning, using all of their strength. For a moment, they were one with their swords, one with their sabers. Some of them even went all out. Caught off guard, the She family was still immersed in the pleasure of taking revenge when they were suddenly met with a storm of blows. From the She clan's unguarded feet and sides, people in white jumped out one after another. The She clan's experts focused all their attention on the Pear Blossom Slope in front of them and started to attack crazily. Ambush. This voice was sharp and shrill, but it was already too late. The Li clan's people who appeared all buried their heads and killed without saying a word. Just one contact and the She clan's people were quickly reduced by half, and most of them were seriously injured. The leading 7th grade supreme martial artist was heavily taken care of by an 8th grade supreme martial artist and a 7th grade supreme martial artist. He went all out. His body was like being beaten by a drum. 30 punches, 18 slashes, and 10 kicks. Without making a sound, he scattered in the air like fireworks. Bang! Above, Dong Wushang gritted his teeth. Good kill. Good death. This bunch of bastards. They lost 100 years to me in one go. Cough, second update, I apologize again. It's a little late, Mr. Tricky was fighting with me. When I was fully focused on the battle, he suddenly slipped and I stumbled. Snot. But this guy's health is indeed not good recently. He just told me that his cervical vertebra bone hyperplasia. It can't be compared to me, who is full of energy, haha, he is embarrassed to say it himself, so I will help him say it here. Everyone, please understand. The author's occupational disease is indeed, well, that's all. I hope that if one day I also feel uncomfortable, everyone will understand me. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.